Chapter 2989. From the spell Altar on the east side, a Tao Saint expert flew out. This person was a dignified middle-aged man. He was a powerful Tao Saint from the Li clan. His cultivation was one of the best among the Tao Saints in the Elder group. He was only slightly weaker than Xianzheng, who was half a Daozu. The top 100 has been decided. Next will be the battle for the top 10. I will announce the following rules. The Tao Saint expert of the Li clan said in a low voice as his divine light swept across the geniuses. The 100 geniuses pricked up their ears, afraid that they would miss out on a single word. The Tao Saint of the Li clan continued. The top 100 geniuses will draw lots and be split into 10 groups. Each group will have 10 people and will engage in a battle royale. The 2 remaining geniuses in every battle space will enter the next round to compete for the top 10. As for the others, they will be eliminated. They did not expect the rules of the battle for the top 100 to be so simple. At the same time, it was also very cruel. It was a battle royale right from the start, and 80% of the geniuses would be eliminated, leaving only 20 people. Furthermore, a battle royale was different from a battle between 2 people. Unless one had absolute strength, there were too many uncertainties. Hearing the rules, the 100 geniuses all had different expressions. Those who were confident in their own strength naturally did not care. Some geniuses who felt that they were not strong enough were nervous and even fearful. At the same time, they started to think. Su Fong frowned and said in his heart, "The most important thing is the drawing of lots. If I'm drawn into the same group as those experts, then I can't avoid a fierce battle. Even if I'm able to win the group, I'll have to pay a heavy price, and the subsequent battles for the top 10 will become extremely difficult." With Su Fong's current strength, he was confident that it would not be difficult for him to enter the top 10. However, in a battle royale, if he expended too much energy or even got injured, he might even expose his strength. It would not be worth it. If I can be in the weakest group and avoid the top geniuses, I will be able to preserve my strength to the greatest extent. Su Fong's cold eyes flashed with a bright light. "Everyone, choose a jade pendant. Everything is ready." The Tao Saint of the Li clan opened his hands, and 100 fist-sized balls of light flew out from his palms towards the top 100 geniuses on the west side of the spell altar. The Xianguang wrapped around a jade pendant. However, it was covered by the Xianguang, and it was hard to see the number on it. If the jade pendants had the same number, they would naturally be in the same group. An eye opened up in Su Fong's forehead. Honorable. Of a true eye. Su Fong used his eye of true future to perform countless calculations as the fireballs flew toward him. And the trajectory of the 100 balls of light was controlled by a mysterious willpower. The top 100 geniuses unknowingly chose the ball of light that was closest to them. If Su Fong had not used the true eye, he would not have hesitated to grab the ball of light that was flying towards him. This also meant that the top 100 geniuses would be in the same group and be controlled by the Tao Saint of the Li clan. The Tao Saint of the Li clan was very secretive. It was obvious that he had used a forbidden technique of the Li clan. Even the Tao Saints on the east side of the spell altar did not notice it. Or perhaps someone had noticed it but did not say anything. What made Su Fong furious was that according to the arrangement of the Tao Saint of the Li clan, he and Shu Wanjin would be in the same group. Su Fong would be in the same group as the Hu people's Tao disciple, Hu Di Tian, while Shu Wanjin would be in the same group as the Yi clan's Tao disciple, Yi Feishu. This person was obviously trying to please the Hu people and purposely made such arrangements for Su Fong and Shu Wanjin. In this way, even if the 2 of them were not eliminated, they would definitely suffer heavy losses. As a Tao Saint, he was actually so despicable to do such a thing. What was even more despicable was that this person had secretly arranged for the geniuses of the Li clan and Meng clan to be in groups that did not have any truly powerful experts. This way, they would have a higher chance of qualifying than the other groups. Since I have seen through it, how can I let you get what you want? Su Fong laughed coldly in his heart. He waved his sleeves and released a wave of divine power. He directly swept away the 2 balls of Xianguang that were flying towards him and Shu Wanjin. Then, he grabbed the 2 balls of Xianguang that were flying towards the geniuses of the Li clan and Meng clan respectively. Senior sister, grabbed that ball of Xian Guang. Su Fang grabbed one of the balls of Xian Guang and transmitted his divine will to Shu Wanjin at the same time. Shu Wanjin was stunned. She did not understand Su Fang's intentions, but she still grabbed the other Xian Guang that Su Fang had grabbed. Su Fang opened his palm, and the ball of Xian Guang in his hand dissipated, revealing a jade token. On it was written the number 9, which meant that he would enter the 9th group. Shu Wanjin had drawn the 3rd group. The Li clan's Dao Saint Dynasty's Su Fang shouted fiercely, "Hen Wuxiang, what are you doing?" Su Fang laughed coldly in his heart, but on the surface he did not understand. "Sir, since we're drawing lots, we can naturally choose as we wish. What did I do to break the rules?" The Li clan's Dao Saint snorted coldly. He was furious, but he could not refute Su Fang. He glanced sharply at Su Fang. The Li clan's Dao Saint could only wave his sleeves and let the geniuses enter the battle space. Enter the battle space according to the number on the jade token. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. 100 geniuses entered the 10 battle spaces according to the drawing of lots. Su Fang entered the 9th battle space and looked at the other 9 geniuses. He then looked at Shu Wanjin's battle space and smiled coldly. You can even cheat by drawing lots. Is this what Xianzheng meant by fairness? It was exactly as Su Fang had deduced. The group that he and Shu Wanjin were in did not have any Daozi from the 5 divine tribes or Daozu's direct disciples. It was obvious that they were the 2 weakest groups. Of course, the so-called weakest was only relative. The geniuses from the Li clan and the Ming clan were in the group with more experts. The Dao Saints and some geniuses in the Elder panel could see some clues, but no one stood out to expose them. The 9th group that Su Fang was in was not without powerful geniuses. There was Feng Daocheng from the Imperial Divine Region, Yi Fiku from the Yi clan, Dongxian Hui Huang, and the others were all geniuses from other divine regions. There was also an expert from the Yao clan. Coincidentally, it was the prince of the Peng clan that Su Fang had defeated in the finals of the Blood Valley. The Li clan's Dao Saint could only suffer in silence. His deep eyes were like ice as he shouted coldly, "Let's begin." In the 9th group, the geniuses quickly distanced themselves from the others and looked at them warily. Only Su Fang and Feng Daocheng did not move. Feng Daocheng looked at Su Fang and snorted disdainfully. "Hen Wuxiang, you can scare others by killing Hu Yiming, but you can't scare me. If you don't want to fight with me and let others take advantage of you, it's best that you don't provoke me. That way, both you and I can easily advance to the next round." Unexpectedly, Su Fang turned a deaf ear to him. His attention was on the 3rd group that Shu Wanjin was in. "Arrogant brat, how dare you be so arrogant?" Feng Daocheng was furious that Su Fang ignored him. Su Fang saw that there were no other powerful experts in Shu Wanjin's group other than Dongxian Qinghua. If they grasped the opportunity well, they might have a chance to advance. He was instantly relieved. Hearing Feng Daocheng's angry shout, Su Fang retracted his gaze. He looked at Feng Daocheng and asked in surprise, "Are you talking to me? What did you say?" One of the geniuses repeated Feng Daocheng's words loudly. This genius came from Xixian. He was quite scheming and wanted to provoke Feng Daocheng and Su Fang to fight to the death. As long as one of them was eliminated, he would have a chance to advance. "Did I scare you? It looks like you're already scared. Don't worry, I won't trouble you in this group battle." Su Fang smiled embarrassedly and strode out. The boots on his feet ignited with a rumbling sound, propelling Su Fang forward like a beam of fire, heading straight for Yifiku. This pair of treasured boots was Su Fang's old pair of flame steps treasured boots. Su Fang did not want to reveal his identity yet, so he could not activate the wasp wing Xian Bao. Therefore, during his seclusion, he upgraded the flame steps treasured boots to supreme grade. Su Fang possessed extraordinary fire elemental power, had the treasure refining pool, and cultivated with the help of the Luo Tian wheel. His skill in formations had reached the shocking height of a 5th-level formation master. It was naturally not difficult to upgrade the Flame Steps treasure boots. The Flame Steps treasure boots were not as good as the Wasp Wing Xian Bao and could not allow Su Fang to teleport. However, its speed was truly shocking, far exceeding the limit of a Dao Lord. Turns out that this person is strong on the outside but weak on the inside. He's clearly afraid of me. Su Fong did not attack Feng Daocheng, making Feng Daocheng heave a sigh of relief. Instead, he thought that Su Fong was somewhat afraid of him, and immediately felt contempt for Su Fong. Hen Wuxiang, this seat is not Hu Yiming. Seeing Su Fong charging over, Yi Fiku's eyes revealed a solemn look, but his mouth let out a snort of disdain. Peach God Terracotta Soldier. Yi Fiku directly took out the Peach God Terracotta Soldier, erupting with shocking divine might comparable to peak upper Dao profound realm and pouncing straight for Su Fong. Yi Fiku's strongest ability was the Peach God Terracotta Soldier. Jiuquan Heaven's Chosen did not forbid the Xian Bao, and the Peach God Terracotta Soldier was like a Dharma body of his, so it was not considered against the rules. The power of the Peach God Terracotta Soldier was indeed extraordinary. Back then in Stalwart Star City, if not for Su Fong grasping the Heaven's secret life, shrinking technique, and severing the fate link between the Peach God Terracotta Soldier and Yi Fiku, he would have been suppressed by the Peach God Terracotta Soldier. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Su Fong used the Heaven's secret life, shrinking technique, attempting to sense the life-pulling karma thread planted in Yi Fiku's fate. Who knew the life-pulling karma thread planted in Stalwart Star City actually vanished without a trace, unable to sense its existence in the slightest. The Yi clan is indeed worthy of being one of the 5 great god clans, to actually have an expert erase the life-pulling karma thread. Su Fong was endlessly shocked in his heart. The Peach God Terracotta Soldier arrived in an instant. Suddenly, Su Fong reached out and grabbed at the air, and an illusory fate power enveloped the Peach God Terracotta Soldier. Chapter 2990. Destiny Spell Body. Although Su Fong was unable to completely merge with Pan Tsung's Destiny Spell Body, he was able to use the Destiny Spell Body to unleash the power of destiny. Su Fong did not intend to cut off the destiny connection between the Peach God Terracotta Soldier and Yi Fiku. He only used the power of destiny to interfere and make it difficult for Yi Fiku to control it. Just as Yi Fiku lost control of the Peach God Terracotta Soldier, Su Fong separated his hands, and a grayish-black light rolled out from between his hands. Formless Heavenly Wheel. It was not the formless Heavenly Wheel that was unleashed by the spell body, but the wheel formed by Gui's poison to unleash a powerful attack. Gui had merged with the Mercury Spirit. Not only was her poison 10 times more powerful than before, it also had a terrifying penetrative ability like Mercury. Now that Su Fong unleashed it with the formless Heavenly Wheel, it became extremely terrifying. The grayish-black light rolled, and the surrounding void space sizzled as it was corroded. In an instant, the void space was riddled with holes. Yi Fiku was shocked. He quickly released his thoughts and turned into a world of withered leaves in an attempt to block the light wheel. Chi, chi, chi. Wherever the light wheel went, the withered leaves were corroded into ashes. Yi Fiku's world was also shattered layer by layer. The light wheel crushed towards Yi Fiku with an unstoppable force. I admit defeat and withdraw from the battle royale. Yi Fiku's divine light changed as he quickly admitted defeat. The light wheel stopped abruptly, and the poison surged out from the light wheel. Su Fong looked like he could not stop, but he did it on purpose. With the enmity between him and the Yi clan, how could he let Yi Fiku off so easily? Even if he could not kill him this time, he would at least make him suffer. The Dao Saint in charge of judging in the battle dimension moved his thoughts and swept Yi Fiku and the Peach God Terracotta Soldier out of the dimension. However, Yi Fiku was still stained with some of the poison gas. The poison quickly penetrated his defenses and corroded his flesh layer by layer. It was a horrible sight. This scene caused the geniuses in the battle dimension to tremble in fear. Many of the cultivators felt a chill run down their spines. The battle dimension quickly descended into a chaotic battle royale. Feng Daocheng displayed his formidable strength and used the peerless divine ability of the Royal Heaven Divine Realm to seal the two geniuses and eliminate them. A genius from Beixian had formed a formation with a single thought, trapping Dongxuan's glory within the vast formation. Dongxian Huang Hui Wang activated the Yin Yang De Yuan sword and finally broke the formation to escape, but he was unlucky enough to encounter Feng Daocheng. Dongxian Huiwang was already severely injured in the first few rounds of competition. Being trapped in the formation just now, he had exhausted himself as well. Knowing that he was no match for Feng Daocheng, he was about to admit defeat. Who knew Feng Daocheng didn't give him a chance to admit defeat? He unleashed one of the top divine abilities of the Royal Heaven Divine Realm, and his thoughts transformed into one shocking talisman after another. Dongshuan's glorious Taoist palace was sealed as well as his mouth, making it difficult for him to transmit his thoughts or make any sound. Dongxian trash. Kneel before this reputed one, and this reputed one will spare your life. Feng Daocheng bellowed at Dongxian Huihuang aggressively. Dongxian Wuhan had killed Feng Tianyu, and Feng Daocheng had humiliated Dongxian Huihuang. It was obvious that they wanted to take revenge on Dongxian Wuhan. Trash. Dongxian Huihuang was filled with humiliation. In the Eastern Xian Divine Realm, he was the top genius of the Celestial Pavilion, looking down on everything. Now, he was seen as trash and had to bear the humiliation in public. Kneel. Feng Daocheng barked coldly as a will that could seal heaven and earth descended upon Dongxian Huihuang. Dongxian Huihuang shuddered, his legs turning into jelly as he was about to kneel before Feng Daocheng. Suddenly, a powerful will of massacre arrived and tore apart Feng Daocheng's will. Then, a divine aura enveloped Dongxian Huihuang and swept him out of the dual space. It was Su Fang's timely arrival that saved Dongxian Huihuang from the fate of being humiliated. Dongxian Huihuang had tried to kill Su Fang in the past. Su Fang had no intention of saving him, but Su Fang was also from the Eastern Xian Divine Realm, so he couldn't sit back and watch Dongxian Huihuang be humiliated by Feng Daocheng. Once Dongxian Huihuang flew out of the dual space, Celestial Pavilion Elder Kuei Ziyu caught him with his divine aura and removed his seal. Hen Wuxiang. This lowly one will remember this favor. Dongxian Huihuang cupped his fists and bowed to Su Fang in the dual space, his heart filled with gratitude. Hen Wuxiang. The Eastern Xian Pavilion will remember this favor and repay it generously in the future. Kuei Ziyu and the other experts of the Eastern Xian Pavilion were also grateful to Su Fang. Hen Wuxiang, how dare you meddle in this reputed one's business? Feng Daocheng barked coldly. Su Fang said indifferently, a cultivator can be killed but not humiliated. If you want to take revenge on Dongxian Wuhan, you have plenty of chances to challenge him directly. Instead, you attack Dongxian Huihuang. I don't like the way you bully the weak and fear the strong, so of course, I have to attack. This reputed one wants to preserve his strength. Do you really think this reputed one is afraid of you? Feng Daocheng roared angrily and was about to launch his attack on Su Fang, who knew that Su Fang had no intention of fighting him at all. The fiery steps under his feet roared again as his body flickered, and he was already 100,000 miles away in the blink of an eye. Trash. Don't you even have the courage to fight this reputed one? Feng Daocheng thought that Su Fang was afraid of him and mocked Su Fang. Hearing Feng Daocheng's voice, Su Fang sneered inwardly. Afraid of you? What a joke. Feng Daocheng had once pursued Su Fang to kill him. How could Su Fang let him go? In spite of this, Su Fang did not plan to fight Feng Daocheng in the group battle. That was because the rules of the group battle forbade killing. Merely defeating Feng Daocheng was far from enough. He would let Feng Daocheng climb high for the time being before smashing him to pieces and letting him taste the despair of falling from the pinnacle to the mortal realm. Su Fang sneered inwardly as he distanced himself from Feng Daocheng. Suddenly, buzz, buzz, buzz. The Tao runes of the heavenly fate shrinking art and the heavenly spill profound scripture flashed together as a strong sense of danger rose in his heart. Boom! The scene around him changed drastically as the divine might of the formation swept over him. He was actually trapped in layers of vast formations. He never thought that those geniuses that Su Fang did not take seriously would set up a formation trap to shackle him. If it was just a simple formation, Su Fang would have been able to detect it very easily. These formations were concealed by powerful divine abilities. Even with Su Fang's perfect physical body, he was unable to detect them. He was caught off guard and fell into them. Hen Wuxiang, admit defeat obediently. Otherwise, you will be trapped alive in these formations today. An illusory figure formed from thought passed through the formation. It was the cultivator from the northern profound realm. The cultivators of the northern profound divine region were skilled in the Tao formations. This cultivator from a northern profound divine region was also a formidable formation genius. He was able to create so many formations in such a short time, and all of them were level 5 formations at that. Admit defeat? Do you think a mere formation can trap me? Hen Wuxiang? Su Fong revealed a cold smile under the mask on his face. He used the heaven-prying eye, then grabbed out several sword auras and bombarded the weak points of the formation. The extremely powerful level 5 formation started to shatter layer by layer under the seemingly ordinary sword auras. Su Fong's figure flew out. Impossible! How could my formation be broken so easily? The formation genius from the northern profound divine region stared at Su Fong in shock. Get out! In the blink of an eye, Su Fong used the flame dance treasured boots to attack the northern profound divine region. Then, he released a burst of divine might and blasted the northern profound divine region out of the battle space. Work together to suppress him. A figure charged over from the side. It was a cultivator from the southern profound divine region. At this moment, he used a physical ability to transform into a monster with a dragon's head and a human's body. He charged towards Su Fong with an unparalleled dragon's might and will. Su Fong activated the flame dance treasure boots, and his body was like a bolt of lightning. He threw out a powerful punch that collided with the southern profound divine region cultivator's dragon claw. Not only did Su Fong use his physical strength, but he also hit a trace of primordial energy in his fist, causing this seemingly ordinary punch to become extremely powerful. Boom! The southern profound divine region cultivator's dragon claw shattered, and his dragon scales fell off layer by layer. He was immediately heavily injured. Whoosh! A wave of demonic energy swept out in all directions. The image of a giant rock covered the sky and shackled Su Fong and the surrounding space. Then, a monstrous spatial storm swept towards Su Fong from the sky and the surrounding space. It was the Rock Prince's sudden attack. It turned out that the formation genius from a northern profound divine region had teamed up with a southern profound divine region cultivator and the Rock Prince to set up a formation trap to eliminate Su Fong. Those who were able to enter the top 100 were truly powerful geniuses. Not only were they powerful, but they were also extremely intelligent. Although these two geniuses and the big goblin were powerful, they paled in comparison to Su Fong and Feng Daoqing. None of them would be able to make it out of the group. Therefore, they planned to join forces to eliminate Su Fong and Feng Daoqing, who were the most powerful in the 9th group. Only then would they have a chance. After eliminating Su Fong and Feng Daoqing, there would naturally be another fierce battle between them. Massacre Heavenly Wheel. Su Fong used his blood fiend Dharma body to condense the Massacre Heavenly Wheel. The blood red wheel spiraled out and crushed the surrounding evil demonic energy. It shattered the world and instantly enveloped the Rock Prince. Admit defeat. This king concedes defeat. The Rock Prince had seen Su Fong use the Massacre Heavenly Wheel to kill Hu Yiming with his own eyes. He did not dare to force himself and quickly admitted defeat. The Tao Saint expert in the dual space displayed his divine power in time and sent the Rock Prince out of the dual space. After the genius from the southern profound divine region was severely injured by Su Fong, he was shackled by Feng Daoqing, who rushed over and was also eliminated. Only Feng Daoqing and Su Fong were left in the dual space. Feng Daoqing looked coldly at Su Fong and shouted domineeringly, "Hen Wuxiang, now only you and I are left in the 9th group. I will let you go for now. In the next round, I will definitely take your head." After saying that, he was about to step out of the dual space. The Tao Saint expert suddenly said, "The battle royale in the 9th group is not over." "It's not over?" Feng Daoqing was stunned. He immediately realized that there was another cultivator in the dual space besides Su Fong, but he had used a divine ability to hide. Chapter 2991. Su Fong let out an inexplicable snort and suddenly grabbed at the air. A figure flashed out from 300 zhang away. It was the cultivator from Shixian. This cultivator had used an ability to hide his body and aura, merging with space and making it very difficult to find him. However, While the Xixin cultivator's ability could hide from Feng Daoqing's senses, it could not hide from Su Feng's life-shrinking art. One could hide one's body and aura, but not the aura of fate. The Xixin cultivator was about to run away, but Su Feng was already prepared. He activated the flame, treading boots, and coincidentally appeared in the path of the Xixin cultivator. He released a heavenly wheel of slaughter and shackled the cultivator. Impossible, my elephant concealment art is formless and traceless. How did you discover me? The Xixin cultivator looked at Su Feng with eyes full of disbelief. Do I need to tell you? Su Feng sneered and was about to activate the slaughter wheel. The Xixin cultivator hurriedly said, Wait. Hen Wuxiang, the divine ability you used is related to my Western profound divine realm. You and I are friends, not enemies. Why don't we work together to eliminate Feng Daoqing? That way, you and I will be able to advance smoothly, and you will also be able to eliminate a great enemy like Feng Daoqing. If I wanted to eliminate Feng Daoqing, would I need your help? Su Feng sneered disdainfully. I do have some connections with the Western Xian divine realm, but what does that have to do with you? You try to sow discord between me and Feng Daoqing, and then you provoke the North Xian formation genius, South Xian cultivator, and the Peng Prince to set a trap for me. You thought you were very secretive, but how could these little tricks be hidden from me? You schemed against me. How could I let you go? Su Feng revealed a cold smile as he activated the massacre heavenly wheel. Stop. Hen Wuxiang, my brother is the #1 genius of Xixin, Daozu's direct disciple, Tianqing of Xixin. If you eliminate me, he will not let you go. The Xixin cultivator threatened Su Feng loudly. Western mysterious heavenly crystal? Su Feng had never heard Xixin's Daozu and the wine saint mention Xixin. He naturally did not know the geniuses of Xixin and did not recognize Xixin's Tianqing. However, since Xixuan Tianqing could become Daozu's direct disciple, he must be a powerful genius. He was probably at the same level as Dongxin Wuhan. Moreover, he was the direct disciple of Xixin's Daozu. He would definitely be favored by Xixin's Daozu. In the future, Su Feng would definitely go to Xixin's divine domain to develop. Offending such a genius would definitely cause a lot of trouble in the future. However, when had Su Feng ever been afraid of trouble? With a thought, the massacre heavenly wheel began to spin. A terrifying massacre intent and endless massacre chi crushed towards the heavenly wheel. I admit defeat. I admit defeat. The Xixin cultivator had no choice but to admit defeat and was sent out of the battle space by the Dao Saint. As a result, only Su Feng and Feng Daoqing were left in the battle space. This meant that both of them had entered the top 20. Su Feng and Feng Daoqing flew out of the battle space and arrived at the altar on the west side. Feng Daoqing looked at Su Feng with disdain. I thought Hen Wuxiang was a powerful character. I didn't expect him to be so afraid of me that he doesn't even dare to fight me head-on. On the altar, the other geniuses who had entered the top 20 also snorted disdainfully at Su Feng when they saw the scene earlier. Although Feng Daoqing is the top genius of Qi Tian Divine Domain, he's still a distance away from Daozu's direct disciples and the Taoists of the 5 divine tribes. Hen Wuxiang doesn't dare to fight him. It's obvious that he's not as powerful as we thought. This kid has mastered many extraordinary abilities, but he doesn't have any truly powerful divine abilities. I don't see him using the Xian Bao either. His ability isn't considered top-notch. The possibility of him entering the top 10 is not high. I thought he was a powerful genius who was qualified to compete with the top geniuses. It seems like I overestimated him. The Dao Saints on the east side of the altar and the spectating cultivators discussed Su Feng fervently. Then, they shifted their attention to the other cultivators and no longer paid any attention to Su Feng. The group battle quickly ended and the top 20 geniuses were determined. The disciples of the 5 divine tribes all entered the top 20 and displayed unshakable strength. However, there were some Daozu's direct disciples who were eliminated. 7 of them were either unlucky and were placed in the same group as some powerful experts or were too weak to enter the top 20. Dongxin Wuhan and Dongxian Qingyue successfully entered the top 20. However, Dong Xianyang encountered Hu Ditian in the group battle and was personally eliminated by Hu Ditian. She was also severely injured. Xu Wanjin was placed in a relatively weaker group. Coupled with her extraordinary ability, the powerful Xian Bao, and divine abilities, she successfully entered the top 20. Sima Xiao also entered the top 20, but her injuries were not light. She would probably stop there. There is also a powerful expert from the Eastern Divine Realm who is also a direct disciple of the Dongxian Daozu. His name was Dongxian Daoyin, and he was even more powerful than Dongxian Wuan. Zhan Shun and Chu Ao, whom Su Fang used to know, were both eliminated and had no chance of entering the top 20. Hen Wuxiang, Dongxian Wuhan suddenly transmitted his divine sense to Su Fang. Thank you for helping Dongxian achieve glory. Su Fang smiled faintly. Saving Dongxuan's glory was just a small effort. Hen Wuxiang. One of the geniuses looked at Su Fang with undisguised anger and murderous intent in his eyes. Xishuan Tianqing? Su Fang raised his eyebrows. The cultivator was Xishuan Tianqing, the top genius of the Western Divine Realm and direct disciple of the Western Daozu. Xishuan Tianqing said coldly, Xishuan Ying, who was eliminated by you, is this seat's younger brother. Su Fang did not understand. So what? The Jiushuan's Heaven's Chosen was a cruel competition. It was normal to be eliminated. Xishuan Tianqing's younger brother had been eliminated, but he was unwilling to let the matter rest. This made Su Fang feel somewhat baffled. Xishuan Tianqing shouted at Su Fang. Xishuaning once mentioned this seat to you, but you still eliminated him, didn't you? Su Fang nodded and said, that's right, it did happen. Xishuan Tianqing's tone turned even colder. You dare look down on this seat? Su Fang laughed involuntarily. Which genius who can participate in the finals of the Jiushuan's Heaven's Chosen doesn't have a powerful background? According to what you said, those direct disciples of the Daozu and the 5 Dao disciples of the God race, whoever dares to fight with them is looking down on the Daozu. Then what's the point of the Jiushuan's Heaven's Chosen? Just compete with who has the most powerful background. I don't care about others. Xishuaning definitely has the ability to enter the top 20, but he was eliminated by you. You better pray that you don't meet this seat. Xishuan Tianqing said in an extremely domineering tone. Then, he ignored Su Fang. Hu Ditian and Yi Feishu glanced at Su Fang. Their eyes were filled with cold, murderous intent. The Li clan's Dao Saint expert flew into the air above the battle space and said, the top 20 have been decided. After 10 years of rest, the battle for the top 10 will begin. Then, a cultivator opened up the battle space in the center. Only one of the bubble-like battle spaces was left. That place would give birth to the top 10 geniuses of the entire Jiushuan. The battle for the top 10 would become even more intense. None of the 20 geniuses dared to be careless. They all took out their mobile cave abodes and entered them. They used the limited 10 years to recover and adjust their condition. Su Fang entered the Fuyao cave abode. He sat cross-legged in the flowing time array and devoured pills and life energy. 10 years was too short. However, in the flowing time array, it was equivalent to cultivating for 600 years. It was enough for Su Fang to adjust to his peak condition. For cultivators, 10 years was just a blink of an eye. The Li clan's Dao Saint expert's voice passed through the Xianbao barrier and reverberated in the minds of all the geniuses. The battle for the top 10 has begun. Come out. The 20 geniuses all flew out of their mobile cave abodes. The Li clan's expert said, the rules for the battle for the top 10 are simple. You are free to challenge your opponents according to the order you drew. Those with lower numbers must accept the challenge. The winner will enter the top 10. The loser will be eliminated. Drawing lots again, Su Fang touched the tip of his nose as the corners of his mouth curled up into a sneer. It was completely different from the last time. It was all based on luck. Those who drew number 1 would naturally have more opponents to choose from. The further back they drew, the less they had to choose. Those who drew number 10 and below had almost no choice. However, this was not absolute. It depended on who the geniuses with their numbers at the front would choose to be their opponent. The strong cultivator of the Li clan glanced at Su Fang indifferently and said, come up and draw lots. This time, the Li clan's Dao Saint had learned his lesson. He placed all 20 jade tokens in a gourd xianbao and let the geniuses take turns to draw lots. Even if Su Fong had the future true eye, he would not be able to make a choice. He could only rely on his luck. The geniuses all went up and released their thoughts. The moment they touched the gourd, a jade token wrapped in a xian guang flew out. After Su Fong drew a jade token, he returned to the spell altar and released his sensing power. He looked through the xian guang and saw the word 5 carved on the token. This token was not bad. It seemed that the Li clan's Dao Saint did not cheat this time. The genius who drew number 1, come up and choose your opponent. The Li clan's Dao Saint said sternly. Whoosh! A genius flew from the eastern spell altar into the battle space. It was Feng Daocheng from the Imperial Sky Divine region. This person's luck was not bad. He had draw number 1 jade token, which allowed him to choose his opponent. Under the gazes of everyone, Feng Daocheng seemed to be in high spirits. Feng Daocheng only needed to choose the weakest genius from the other geniuses and win. Then, he would be able to enter the top 10. Even if he did not win a single battle, it would be enough to make him famous in Jiuquan. How could he not be excited? Feng Daocheng's gaze swept past the 19 geniuses. The Hu people's Dao disciple, Hu Ditian, suddenly transmitted his thoughts. Feng Daocheng, if you choose hatred formless, I promise you that I will let you choose a supreme superpower from the Hu people's hidden scriptures pavilion. Chapter 2992. It's not difficult to kill Hen Wuxiang, but after it's done, don't go back on your word. Feng Daocheng agreed readily, but he was still worried about Hu people's reputation. Hu Ditian replied, don't be careless. That Hen Wuxiang is not a simple person. After it's done, I won't go back on my word. It's a deal. Feng Daocheng was overjoyed. Geniuses who could make it to the top 20 were all extraordinary. No matter how conceited Feng Daocheng was, he dared not say that he had absolute confidence. Feng Daocheng felt that defeating Su Fong was his best bet. After all, it was a fact that Su Fong had avoided fighting him during the group battle. Now that Hu Ditian had offered to kill Su Fong, Feng Daocheng would be getting benefits for free. How could he not be excited? The Li clan's Dao Saints said, Feng Daocheng, choose your opponent. Feng Daocheng's gaze swept over the eastern altar, and he looked hesitant. He then pointed at Su Fong and said, Hen Wuxiang, I challenge you. Challenge me? Su Fong was stunned. He did not expect Feng Daocheng to challenge him. Feng Daocheng is challenging Hen Wuxiang? Looks like Hen Wuxiang is being treated as a pushover by Feng Daocheng. In the group battle just now, Hen Wuxiang did not dare to fight Feng Daocheng at all. If I were Feng Daocheng, I would choose him too. Then Hen Wuxiang is in trouble. The other geniuses looked at Su Fong. Some were worried for him, while others were gloating. Dong Xianqingwei suddenly sent a divine thought to Su Fong. Hen Wuxiang, be careful. Feng Daocheng's ability is extraordinary. If you can't beat him, admit defeat quickly so that you don't lose your life. Su Fong had saved Dongxian Hui Wang during the group battle, preventing him from being humiliated by Feng Daocheng. Hence, the cultivators of the Eastern Xian Divine Domain had a good impression of Su Fong. Dong Xianqingyue's reminder was out of goodwill. Thank you. Su Fong smiled awkwardly and flew into the battle space, hovering thousands of miles away from Feng Daocheng. Hen Wuxiang. Feng Daocheng looked at Su Fong with a smile on his face, looking completely harmless. Su Fong raised his eyebrows. Feng Daocheng, what are you trying to say? Feng Daocheng said, in our battle, one of us will definitely be eliminated. Since we're participating in Jiuquan's heavenly selection, we naturally want to show our talents in front of everyone. We don't want to be buried, so... Su Fong sneered inwardly and looked at Feng Daocheng indifferently. Feng Daocheng continued, you and I will definitely do our best in this battle. Why don't we have a battle of life and death? Only then can we stimulate our true potential. What do you think? Life and death battle? Feng Daocheng had said so much because he wanted to have a life and death battle with Su Fong. He was afraid that Su Fong would not agree, so he tried to entice Su Fong. Su Fong touched the tip of his nose and hesitated. Feng Daocheng quickly said, don't worry. Even if I defeat you, I won't kill you. Since you want to have a life and death battle with me so much, How can I not fulfill your wish? Su Fong chuckled and agreed. Then it's a deal. This battle will be a life and death battle. Feng Daoqing's smile faded and was replaced by coldness. Dongxian Wuhan suddenly said, Hen Wuxiang, don't agree to a life and death battle with him. The rest of you, don't disturb us. The Li clan's Dao Saint shouted at Dongxian Wuhan. He then looked at Feng Daoqing and Su Fong and said, You're all top geniuses of the human race. I don't want to see any of you die. Think carefully. Do you really want a life and death battle? You can't wait for me to die in Feng Daoqing's hands, can you? Su Fong sneered inwardly. He said decisively, I've decided. I have no regrets even if I die. Feng Daoqing laughed. You're bold. I'll make sure you die without regrets. Su Fong said indifferently, You might be the one who dies. Feng Daoqing snorted. I'm looking forward to seeing how you're going to kill me. The first battle of the top 10 was a life and death battle. Many cultivators were discussing and guessing the outcome of this battle. Isn't Hen Wuxiang too arrogant? Anyone with eyes can see that Feng Daoqing wants to kill him. Why would he agree to a life and death battle? Which of the top 20 geniuses isn't confident in their own abilities? Feng Daoqing wants to kill Hen Wuxiang. Hen Wuxiang is ruthless. He might want to kill Feng Daoqing too. In the group battle, Hen Wuxiang didn't dare to fight Feng Daoqing. How can he have the upper hand in this battle? It wasn't just the billions of cultivators. The Jiuquan's higher-ups and top 20 geniuses on the altar didn't think Su Fong would win. The Dao Saints and Taoists of the Hu and Yi clans looked at Su Fong as if they were looking at a dead man. On the eastern altar, Dongxian Qingyue asked Xu Wanjin, You're from the same sect as Hen Wuxiang. Why didn't you stop his life and death battle? Why should I stop him? Aren't you worried about him at all? Of course I am. I'm worried that he'll offend the experts of Qitian Divine Region by killing Feng Daoqing. Dongxian Qingyue was stunned. Dongxian Daoyan, who had been silent, suddenly spoke up. Qingyue, stop talking. Feng Daoqing will lose this battle. There's no doubt about it. Some scoffed at Dongxian Daoyan's judgment, but Dongxian Wuhan and Dongxian Qingyue were convinced. In the battle space, Su Fong and Feng Daoqing's life and death battle had begun. Seal on behalf of the heavens, suppress. Feng Daoqing used his will visualization. In that instant, Feng Daoqing seemed to have replaced the supreme heavenly Tao, dominating everything in the space and sealing all things on behalf of the heavens. A terrifying force will envelop Su Fong and the surrounding space. Above Su Fong, a golden scroll that could only be seen by nascent divinity slowly unfurled. It looked like an imperial edict from a mortal emperor, releasing a supreme will of the heavens. Under the pressure of this supreme will, no one could resist it. Under the pressure of this will, all will bow down and submitted to Feng Daoqing. Qitian Divine Region's top technique, seal the gods on behalf of the heavens, seal the heavens with will. Extraordinary, very extraordinary. Feng Daoqing is indeed the top genius of Qitian Divine Region. He must have a place in the top 10, and his ranking won't be the last few. And Wuxiang probably can't even withstand Feng Daoqing's will attack. He can't escape the fate of being suppressed. Hen Wuxiang is too arrogant. He's courting death by challenging Feng Daoqing to a life and death battle. Feng Daoqing's will pass through the boundary of the space and affected the surrounding cultivators. Everyone was shocked when they felt the will that was like the heavens. Many people exclaimed. Feng Daoqing saw Su Fong trembling under the pressure of the will and heard the discussions and exclamations of the crowd. He was very pleased and shouted at Su Fong domineeringly, Hen Wuxiang, kneel down now. Is this all you've got? Su Fong suddenly revealed a look of disdain. Following that, a powerful will exploded and shattered the surrounding shackles. His willpower condensed into a black and red illusory light wheel, which rose slowly and slowly. The formless heavenly wheel. The formless heavenly wheel was Shi Xian Daozu's most powerful abhijna. It contained the will visualization technique and used a powerful will to attack. Su Fong used the will of the heavenly way spell body and the formless heavenly wheel to attack. It was also a supreme will of the heavenly way. The will visualization technique that Feng Daoqing used was on the same level as the formless heavenly wheel. They were both the most powerful abhijna in the Jiuquan divine realm. However, Su Fang had relied on the heart of the Xeno-race expert, Slaughter, to cultivate, sense, and comprehend the Heaven Dao. So how could his comprehension of the Heaven Dao be something that Feng Daocheng could compare to? The yin-yang heavenly wheel, which was visualized by his will, rumbled and collided with the painting above Su Fang's head. It shattered the painting and then rolled towards Feng Daocheng. The formless heavenly wheel? You are a Shixian cultivator. Facing the yin-yang heavenly wheel, Feng Daocheng felt as if he was being crushed. His divine light changed instantly. Using his will to visualize talismans, after clashing with the heavenly wheel, the crisis was resolved. The billions of cultivators were shocked. On the Eastern Spell altar, many Dao saints from the Elder Group looked at the Wine Saint in astonishment. Xianzheng asked in a low voice, "Wine Saint, is Hen Wuxiang a genius of Shixian? Why did he enter the Jiuquan heavenly selection as a Yuxian divine realm cultivator?" The Wine Saint was also confused. He replied, "If you ask me, who should I ask?" In fact, he had guessed Su Fang's true identity. On the Western spiritual altar, Shixian Tianqing's eyes were filled with surprise and jealousy. Who is this person? Why does he have the formless heavenly wheel? And his will attack is not inferior to mine? Imperial decree. Feng Daocheng released 3,000 thoughts, which quickly turned into golden talismans. They gathered together to form a heavenly decree that was 1,000 feet long. It shone with golden light and was filled with the majesty and holiness of the heavenly way. It suppressed Su Fang. Natural heavenly wheel. Su Fang used the formless heavenly wheel and used the Xianhuang spell body to use the natural heavenly wheel to attack the huge heavenly decree. Boom, boom, boom. After a series of earth-shattering collisions, the entire battle space trembled violently. Feng Daocheng's Ubijnao was indeed extraordinary. No matter how the natural heavenly wheel attacked, it could not break through its shackles. However, the formless heavenly wheel had the characteristic of being indestructible. The huge heavenly decree could not break the natural heavenly wheel. Heavenly Wheel of Massacre. Su Fang used the Blood Fury spell body to use the Heavenly Wheel of Massacre. It turned into a blood-red wheel and rolled out like a killing machine, tearing the heavenly decree apart. Boom, boom, boom. After another series of explosions, the heavenly decree shattered. Feng Daocheng, what are your last words? You can tell me now. Su Fang blew out a breath, which landed on the natural heavenly wheel and the heavenly wheel of massacre. The two light wheels suddenly shone brightly and rolled towards Feng Daocheng. Hen Wuxiang, you deliberately hid your strength to lure me into a battle of life and death with you? Feng Daocheng finally understood and let out a thunderous roar at Su Fang. Chapter 2993. As soon as Su Fang finished speaking, he activated the Massacre Heavenly Wheel and shackled Feng Daocheng within it. You're obviously stronger than me. Why did you hide until now? Why did you avoid me during the group battle? Only now did Feng Daocheng understand that he was no match for Su Fang at all. The confidence in his heart collapsed with a bang, and he asked Su Fang unwillingly, "During the group battle, we're not allowed to kill each other. If I eliminated you, how could there be a battle of life and death?" Su Fang said with killing intent. Then he snorted. "How laughable. You actually thought that I was afraid of you. Not only did you challenge me, you even wanted to fight me to the death. If you're not a clown, then what are you? You were prepared to kill me from the start. I have no enmity with you. Why do you want to kill me?" Feng Daocheng's heart was frozen. Indeed, we had no enmity between us. It was you who was too arrogant and overbearing. You sought your own death. As for why I wanted to kill you, haha, you can just be a confused ghost. Su Fang activated the Heavenly Wheel of Massacre and Heavenly Wheel of Nature and was about to crush Feng Daocheng. Wait, the Li Clan's Dao Saint suddenly spoke. Then, he said, the original intention of the Jiuquan's Heaven Chosen is to select the true genius of the human clan. Feng Daocheng is the #1 genius of the Imperial Divine Realm. If he's killed, it will be a great loss to the human clan. Therefore, you can't kill him. I can't kill him? Su Fang laughed coldly. If I'm killed by Feng Daocheng, will you stop it? The Li Clan's Dao Saint shouted. Hen Wuxiang, how dare you question me? Su Fang laughed coldly. According to you, If I'm killed by Feng Daocheng, I'll have killed for nothing. If I kill Feng Daocheng, it will be a great loss to the human clan. Feng Daocheng was a peerless genius, but I, Hen Wuxiang, wasn't. Your duty is to decide the victor. Furthermore, this is a battle of life and death. What right do you have to stop me? The Li clan's Dao Saint frowned. Hen Wuxiang, if you dare to be rude to me again and challenge my authority, don't blame me for being impolite to you. When have you ever been courteous to me? Su Fong sneered. Looking at the Li race Dao Saint, Su Fong's cold eyes flashed with an unyielding and mocking expression. During the group battle, you purposely placed me in the same group as Uditian. Now, you're trying to stop me from killing. What right do you have to make such a decision? What right do you have to stop me from killing Feng Daocheng? The Li clan's Dao Saint's eyes flashed with murderous intent. How dare you? Just as he was about to release his will, Su Fong said coldly, although you are a Dao Saint, you are so unfair. Aren't you afraid of being scolded by the cultivators of the 9 divine regions? Don't forget that I, hating Wu Xiang, am not an ant with no background. If you don't want the Yi clan to end up like Hu people, I advise you to obediently do your part. The domineering clanging sound spread from the battle space to the outside and reverberated in the huge space. It was unknown how many people were shocked and how many people were crying out in surprise for Su Fong. He was wild and domineering. He did not even care about a Dao Saint. There were also people who felt that the Li clan's Dao Saint was unfair. The Li clan's Dao Saint's eyes were filled with hatred and sharpness. He wanted so badly to kill Su Fong. But he knew very well that if he really did that, not only him, but the entire Yi clan would pay a heavy price. Daozu, the Dark Mother, had fought against Daozu because her disciple had been bullied by Hu Yufei. If he killed Su Fong, thinking about the consequences, the Li clan's Dao Saint shuddered and completely dispelled the thought of killing Su Fong. At that moment, Feng Daocheng's body flashed. He unleashed his divine aura and charged at the surrounding light wheels in an attempt to escape. Cowardly and afraid of death, bullying the weak and fearing the strong. How could such a person be called an unparalleled genius? Su Fong revealed a domineering smile. With a thought, the massacre heavenly will spun wildly. Feng Daocheng, under the terrifying massacre will and the endless slaughter, lasted less than 20 breaths before he was turned into minced meat by the massacre heavenly wheel. The Li clan's Dao Saint hesitated but did not stop Su Fong. Lord, you should announce the result. Su Fong looked at the Li clan's Dao Saint. The latter snorted and said in a low voice, Hen Wuxiang wins. Just like that, Su Fong became the first genius to enter the top 10. Many cultivators did not expect that Feng Daocheng would be killed in the end. They were all surprised and shocked. Su Fong, who no one thought highly of at the beginning, suddenly became unfathomable in their eyes. The Wine Saint laughed heartily, and then he said to the Hu people's Dao Saint, Hupa, the genius of the Imperial Heaven Divine region is dead. Why you look so pale? Are you worried that your Hu people's Dao disciple will definitely encounter Hen Wuxiang? At that time, your Hu people will probably have to choose a new Dao disciple from the Dao Lord Realm disciples. Hupa sneered disdainfully. Hu Diqian is the best candidate. No matter how extraordinary that Hen Wuxiang is, how could he be a match for the genius of my clan? The Grand Elder of the Elder Group, Xian Zheng, sized Su Fong up carefully, and then he sent a voice transmission to Su Fong, Hen Wuxiang. Su Fong was stunned, and then he replied, Lord Xian Zheng, what's the matter? Hen Wuxiang, you have to work hard in the upcoming battles for the top 10. I admire you very much no matter what the outcome is. Don't worry about anything else. I'll uphold justice for you. Thank you, Lord. Su Fong had never imagined that Xian Zheng would actually express goodwill towards him, and Xian Zheng's words revealed the intention of supporting Su Fong. Su Fong pondered for a moment, and he discerned Xian Zheng's intentions. Su Fong had heard about Xian Zheng from the Wine Saint. Xian Zheng seemed to be upright and dignified, yet he was actually extremely ambitious, and he intended to utilize the Xeno race invasion to become the leader of the human race. Even though his strength was extraordinary, he was an independent cultivator, so he naturally intended to draw over the powers and experts of the various divine domains to his side. Su Fong's display was so shocking, and he had the Dark Mother, Daozu, standing behind him. So long as he was able to draw Su Fong over to his side, then it would be equivalent to obtaining the support of a Daozu expert. Su Fong sneered inwardly. Xian Zheng, you took away my right to participate in the competition to curry favor with the Hu people, and now you're trying to rope me in. How ironic. If you knew that Hen Wuxiang was Su Fong, I wonder what kind of expression you'd have on your face. In the dual dimension, the second battle had already begun. Long Tianzi versus the Meng clan's Daozu. The Meng clan was one of the 5 divine clans of the central profound divine domain, and their Daozu's strength was indeed extraordinary. However, Long Tianzi was even more impressive. He used the heavenly providence to defeat the Meng clan's Daozu, becoming the second genius to enter the top 10. In the third battle, Dongxin Daoyan, a peerless genius from the eastern profound divine domain, immediately issued a challenge to another genius after entering the dual dimension. Coincidentally, the opponent he challenged was the assassin of the Assassin League. Ing Tuesday. Su Fong had been paying attention to Ing Tuesday. Although this person had changed his appearance, his aura of destiny could not escape Su Fong's notice. Su Fong had hoped to meet him and find a chance to kill Ing Tu, but it seemed like there was no hope now. Dongxian Daoyan was unfathomable, and Ing Tu could not enter the top 10. Su Fong naturally would not have the chance to meet him again. This Ing Tu's luck is not bad. It's his luck to be eliminated. Su Fong felt a pang of regret. Ing Tu, this reputed one's ability, is amazing. Once it's used, it's very difficult to control. It might even harm your life. Dongxian Daoyan's calm tone was filled with an unparalleled dominance. The Ing Tu he was referring to was the assassin of the Assassin League. Ing Tuesday. I've long heard that Dongxian Daozu is the heir of Dongxian Daozu, the future successor of the Eastern Profound Divine Domain. I didn't expect you to be so arrogant. Since this reputed one has participated in the Jiushuan God's Chosen, how can I give up so easily? Ing Tu said darkly. Dongxian Daoyan cupped his fists towards the Li clan's Dao Saint. Sir, please forgive me if I can't control my ability and accidentally kill someone. The Li clan's Dao Saint said indifferently. As long as you didn't kill someone on purpose, this reputed one will naturally make a fair judgment. Ing Tu's body flashed and disappeared into nothingness. His body and aura disappeared without a trace, as if he had merged into the dual space. Dongxian Daoyan smiled lightly. Suddenly, a black and white Xian Guang shot out from his pupils and landed on a spot in the void. The light from his pupils contained a terrifying power that could destroy all spells. Although Ing Tu's invisibility ability was amazing, he could not squat under the light of his pupils. Not only that, Ing Tu only had time to let out a cry under the black and white Xian Guang before his body and energy were rapidly disintegrated into the most primitive air of chaos. It was as if he had evaporated, disappearing from the dual space without a trace. Dongxian Daozu's direct disciple was actually so powerful. Su Fong was astounded. If he were to meet Dongxian Daoyan, he was not confident that he could win either. Sichuan Tianqing chose his opponent for the fourth match. What Su Fong did not expect was that Sichuan Tianqing's opponent was actually Xu Wanjin. Su Fong sent a telepathic message to Xu Wanjin, "Senior sister, be careful. Sichuan Tianqing is obviously seeking revenge. If you can't beat him, admit defeat quickly. Do you think your senior sister will be as reckless as you?" Xu Wanjin replied bluntly and stepped into the dual space. Just as Su Fong had expected, Sichuan Tianqing had purposely challenged Xu Wanjin to take revenge on Su Fong for eliminating Sichuaning. Xu Wanjin's ability was indeed extraordinary, but it was far from being comparable to Sichuan Tianqing's. Sichuan Tianqing cast the shapeless Dao and turned it into a terrifying storm, tearing apart the night sky that Xu Wanjin had created. "I admit defeat." Xu Wanjin admitted defeat decisively. Admit defeat? Sichuan Tianqing's expression was cold as the 4 symbols of wind, rain, thunder, and lightning formed a heavenly wheel that crushed toward Xu Wanjin. The Li clan's Dao Saint stood there indifferently, as if he had not seen or heard anything. Xu Wanjin activated the Black Lotus Xian Bow, the burst of divine power condensing into black barriers. The 4 symbols' heavenly wheel tore apart the black barriers. Just as it was about to crush Shu Wanjin activated the Black Lotus, and 4 petals flew out to shatter the 4 symbols' heavenly wheel. Shu Wanjin was hit by the aftershock and spat out a mouthful of blood. Her aura weakened, and her Black Lotus Xian bow was also severely damaged. Chapter 2994. Shu Wanjin flew out of the battle space and landed on the ground. She sat down cross-legged in the area where the eliminated geniuses were and swallowed pills to recover. Su Fong sent her a telepathic message. "Senior sister, is it serious?" Shu Wanjin replied, "It's fine. I just need some time to recover. My origin was not damaged." Su Fong gritted her teeth. "Senior sister, don't worry. I'll make Tian Qing pay 10 times the price for what he did to you. Don't try to show off. Tian Qing's strength is extraordinary. He has the strength to fight for the top 3. Fight if you can, don't force yourself. I don't care about a mere Tian Qing." After ending the conversation with Shu Wanjin, Tian Qing's provocative voice rang out. "Hen Wuxiang, you eliminated my brother, so I injured your fellow disciple. Too bad I couldn't kill her. This is just the beginning. We'll definitely meet in the top 10. When that time comes, I'll fight you to the death." Su Fong replied indifferently, "I'll spare your life when that time comes." Shameless boasting. Tian Qing sneered disdainfully and flew back to his throne. In the next 3 battles, Daozu's direct disciple, Jing Hao, Li Clan's Daozi, and Yuan Zhu from the demon race defeated their opponents and entered the top 10. It was Dongxian Wuhan's turn to challenge. He pointed at Hu Diqian and said, "Hu Diqian, come up and fight me." Dongxian Wuhan's choice was unexpected. Dongxian Wuhan had a lot of opponents to choose from. Hu Diqian, Yi Feishu, Dongxian Qingyue, Sima Xiao Xiao, and a genius from the northern profound divine realm. Even if he did not challenge Dongxian Qingyue and Sima Xiao Xiao, among the remaining 3, the Beixin cultivator and Yi Feishu were obviously weaker than Hu Diqian. However, he gave up on the weaker ones and chose to challenge Hu Diqian. Hu Diqian was like a peerless emperor as he slowly descended into the battle space. He looked at Dongxian Wuhan with a domineering gaze. "Dongxian Wuhan, I admire you for infiltrating the demonic clan's world and contributing greatly to the human race. However, you're overestimating yourself by challenging me. I'll stop you outside the top 10. You all care about the false reputation, but I don't care about it at all. Participating in the Jiuxuan God selection this time, other than avenging Dongxuan's genius, Su Fong, I'm also competing with the true geniuses of the human race. You are Hu people's path chosen. You just happen to meet 2 of my requirements. As for the outcome, I don't care. If that's the case, then let's fight. I hope you can give me the ability to use my full strength." Hu Diqian exuded a domineering aura. A thought flashed out, turning into the silhouette of a middle-aged man draped in golden robes and a crown on his head. He exuded a domineering aura, as if the ruler of the world had descended. With a flash, the middle-aged man appeared less than 1,000 feet away from Dongxian Wuhan. He struck out a palm in the air, the terrifying will and aura of an emperor pressing down on Dongxian Wuhan. Art of Yin Yang. Dongxian Wuhan unleashed the East Mysterious Pavilion's ultimate skill. His thought turned into 2 black and white fishes of Yin and Yang, battling the middle-aged man. Hu Diqian released his thought again, turning it into an imperial jade seal, descending towards Dongxian Wuhan with an invincible aura that could seal off all directions. Hu people are indeed the top divine race in Middle Xian. Powerful skills are endless, but I like it. Dongxian Wuhan was delighted instead of shocked. His eyes flickered with intense battle intent and madness. He no longer had his usual stoic demeanor, but had turned into a battle maniac. Boom, boom, boom. An earth-shattering battle unfolded in the battle space, shocking countless cultivators. It did not look like a battle between 2 Dao masters, nor did it look like a battle between Dao mystic cultivators. Instead, it was a battle between experts who had surpassed the Dao mystic realm. The battle went on for an hour. The 2 of them were in a stalemate. Finally, Hu Diqian activated a Xian Bao that looked like an imperial jade seal, releasing a shocking power that shook Dongxian Wuhan to the point of spitting blood. The Li Clan's Dao Saint expert shouted, "Stop! This battle is over. Hu Diqian wins." Dongxin Wuhan was stunned. It was far from the time to determine the victor, but the Li clan's Dao Saint had announced the result. This was completely out of his expectations. Even Hu Ditian was surprised. Tuo Qianji roared. The victor hasn't been determined yet. Why announce Hu Ditian's victory? The Li clan's expert said indifferently. Dongxin Wuhan is heavily injured. It's meaningless to continue. If he were to die here, how would I explain it to Dongxin Daozu? Furthermore, he has contributed to the human race. If he were to die because I didn't stop him in time, wouldn't I be the sinner of the human race? His eloquence left Tuo Qianji speechless. Su Fong laughed coldly in his heart. Dongxin Wuhan is a peerless expert who has fought his way out of countless experts of other tribes. Although he is injured now, he might not lose. Even if Hu Ditian wins, it will be a Pyrrhic victory. The Li clan's Dao Saint stopped him not to protect him, but because he was afraid that Hu Ditian would be injured and affect the battle later. A Dao Saint expert is actually so despicable. Tuo Qianji wanted to argue, but Dongxin Wuhan suddenly said, "Forget it. I've lost this battle." Then, Dongxin Wuhan flew out of the battle space. Hu Ditian smiled domineeringly. Dongxin Wuhan, it looks like you're still unconvinced. If there's a chance, I'll fight you again. I'm not unconvinced in this battle. I'm not your opponent in a battle between geniuses, but if it's a battle of life and death, I can definitely kill you. Dongxin Wuhan replied woodenly and sat down calmly on a seat on the ground. Hu Ditian smiled disdainfully. Many cultivators thought that Dongxin Wuhan was just finding an excuse for his failure. There were those who mocked him and those who disdained him. Dongxin Wuhan, however, turned a deaf ear to them and sat there with his legs crossed. Su Fong thought to himself, Dongxin Wuhan is speaking the truth. He could survive the pursuit of countless experts of other tribes in the demonic world. His actual combat ability is far from what any other genius can compare to. In the Jiushuan's Chosen One, even if it's a battle of life and death, Dongxin Wuhan has to be cautious due to his identity. He can't kill as he pleases like me, and his ability is affected. If it's a battle of life and death, Hu Ditian will definitely die. There were two more battles. Sima Xiaoxiao's battle was against a formation genius from North Xian. That North Xian cultivator was indeed extraordinary. Not only was his formation skill shocking, reaching the pinnacle of level 5, but he also had an extraordinary formation Xian Bao. However, Sima Xiaoxiao was no longer the same as she was in the past. It was mainly because she'd obtained a ball of flames and a king-grade dark treasure after she obtained the first position in the Eastern Profound Divine Domain, causing her strength to increase by a few times. Especially that black mirror-like dark treasure, it displayed extraordinary brilliance in this battle. Sima Xiaoxiao utilized the divine might of flames to melt the formation created by the Northern Mystic Sect's cultivator in a practically barbaric manner, and it forced the Northern Mystic Sect's cultivator to admit defeat. The final battle was between Yi Feishu and Dongxin Qinghua. In the end, Yi Feishu used the godly power of the Xian Bao to defeat Dongxin Qinghua. As such, the top 10 of Jiushuan's Chosen One were born. Hen Wuxiang of the Yushin Divine Domain, Jinghao of the Haoyan Divine Domain, Tianqing of the Western Xian Divine Domain, Yuan Jin of the Demonic Race, Hu people of the Middle Xian Divine Domain, Hu Ditian Yi Feishu of the Middle Xian Yi Clan, Li Zhan of the Middle Xian Divine Domain, Dong Xian Dao Yan of the Eastern Xian Divine Domain, Long Tianci of the Hong Tian Divine Domain, Sima Xiaoxiao of the Southern Xian Divine Domain. On the Western altar, the top 10 geniuses were like 10 blazing suns, attracting the attention of billions of people. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The billions of cultivators in the entire space were communicating with each other in various ways. Those who had disciples in the top 10 were naturally excited and cheered thunderously. There were also many who tried to contact the top 10 geniuses to befriend them and express their goodwill. Among the top 10 geniuses, other than Su Fong, the other geniuses were either the descendants of the Daozu or the Dao disciples of the God race. All of them had powerful identities and were difficult to rope in. Therefore, many forces started to have ideas about Su Fong. The Dao Saint expert of the Li clan said majestically to the Western altar, "Rest for 100 years before the top 10 ranking battle." At that time, Every two geniuses will meet each other, and there will be at least 9 bloody battles waiting for you. Don't be careless. The top 10 geniuses all took out their portable cave dwellings and entered to recover and prepare for the upcoming battle. Su Fong used his thoughts to create an illusory figure that remained on the throne, while his original body entered Fu Yao's cavern. His Fu Yao cave dwelling came from the eastern profound heaven pavilion, and many people recognized it, so he had to be careful. Hen Wuxiang. However, just as he sat down in the cave dwelling, a divine thought was transmitted. It was the Wine Saint. Su Fong replied, "Lord Wine Saint, what can I do for you?" Hen Wuxiang. This saint asks you, did the divine ability you use come from Shixian? Apologies, forgive this one for not being able to reveal it to Lord. The Wine Saint chuckled, it's fine if you don't say it. This saint asks you again, this saint has a junior brother called Su Fong. Do you know him? Su Fong immediately denied, I have heard of him, but I have never seen him. If not for the fact that you are much stronger than Su Fong, and the divine ability and aura you used are different from Su Fong's, this saint would have suspected that you are him. This saint has a request. Do not kill Tianqing of Shixian in the battle for the top 10. He is too arrogant, but he is still a genius of Shixian. I hope you will show mercy. Lord, are you sure that I could defeat Tianqing of Shixian? Tianqing of Shixian is shockingly talented, but he is too arrogant and narrow-minded. He will definitely lose against you. Thank you for thinking so highly of me, Hen Wuxiang. When the time comes, I will not kill him. Thank you. If you meet Su Fong, tell him to come see this saint. After ending the conversation with the Wine Saint, Su Fong secretly wiped his cold sweat. It seemed that the Wine Saint was still suspicious. Just as he was about to go into seclusion to cultivate, Sima Xiao sent a sound transmission to Su Fong. Hen Wuxiang, when the Jiuquan Heavenly Selection ends, I invite you to come with me to South Profound. Are you willing? South Profound? Su Fong was stunned. What did Sima Xiao mean? Sima Xiao continued. As far as I know, the cultivators of your profound nether divine region have always been carefree and unrestrained. Furthermore, Tao Ancestor Dark Mother has yet to establish her own force. If you are willing to join my profound south, whatever conditions you have, the profound south will definitely do our best to satisfy you. South Profound Divine Region was close to the demon race's world. Now that a large number of demons had entered South Profound Divine Region would be the first to suffer. Sima Xiao clearly wanted to recruit geniuses for South Profound Divine Region. As long as she could pull Su Fong to her side, she would be able to form a relationship with Mother Dark Daozu. No wonder she was working so hard. Su Fong laughed inwardly and replied, if I want to become Dao companions with Miss Sima, will you agree? A moment of silence. Sima Xiao's voice rang out again. Unfortunately, I have my own plans, so I can only apologize to you. May I know who that person is? Su Fong was surprised that Sima Xiao already had someone in her heart. You should have heard of this person before. Su Fong. Chapter 2995. 100 years flew by in front of everyone's eyes. Just as the battle for the top 10 was about to begin, powerful wills descended one after another. The top experts of the human clan, and even the Tao ancestor experts, sent their wills to the scene of the top 10 competition to witness this grand event of the human clan. The top 10 geniuses also flew out of their cave abodes, waiting for the final battle. None of the geniuses were calm. Every battle for the top 10 would attract everyone's attention, and it would affect the future of each genius. Who exactly was it that was able to stand at the very peak of the world? Countless people were looking forward to it. The battle for the top 10 had not yet begun, but loud cheers rose and fell one after another, like waves of spring thunder rolling. Hu Diqian, first place belongs to him. Li Zhan is in the top 3. Yi Feixiu, Long Tianxi. Many cultivators were shouting the names of each genius, especially the 3 Daozu from the 5 Middle Xian god races. After all, this was their home ground. Furthermore, the strength they had displayed before was extraordinary. Many people believed that the 5 god races would take at least 2 of the top 3 spots. Only Hen Wuxiang's name was not mentioned. It wasn't that he wasn't strong enough or that people didn't think highly of him. It was that the cultivators of the Dark Nether God domain had always been in a state of disunity. The number of Dark Nether God domain cultivators who came to watch the battle was the least, so there were naturally very few cultivators who cheered for Su Fong. Su Fong calmly looked at the altar on the east side. His gaze swept across the human leaders who were sitting there. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly, revealing an imperceptible sneer. He was participating in the finals of the Jiushuan Heavens chosen competition as Hen Wuxiang, not only to prove himself, but also to use his own strength to return the favor to those higher-ups and crush those geniuses who had tried to kill him. The battle for the top 10 will definitely be very exciting. Su Fong revealed a domineering smile. His eyes were cold and proud, and his heart was filled with anticipation. Whoosh, the Li race Dao Saint slowly flew into the air and said, "The battle for the top 10 in the Jiushuan Heavens chosen competition will now begin. I will announce the rules. Every one of the top 10 geniuses will have to fight in pairs, and the final ranking will be determined by the number of wins. In order to protect every genius, I'll repeat it once more. You are not allowed to intentionally injure others during the competition. If you admit that you are no match for your opponent, you could directly admit defeat and withdraw from the competition. If there's anything you don't understand, you can ask now." The Li Clan Dao Saint looked at the 10 geniuses. Hu Ditian asked, "Sir, may I ask if the competition for the top 10 is the same as before? As long as both sides agree, they can fight to the death?" The Li Clan Dao Saint replied decisively, "No." Disappointment could be seen in Hu Ditian's eyes. Those who could enter the top 10 were the top geniuses of the entire human race, and they all had extraordinary identities. The loss of any one of them would be a great loss to the human race. It would also lead to conflicts between the various experts and forces. Naturally, the higher-ups of Jiushuan would not allow these geniuses to fight to the death. The Li Clan's Dao Saint continued, "If there are no more questions, I announce, at this moment," Su Fong suddenly asked, "Sir, how do you decide the order of the battles?" The other geniuses all pricked up their ears. Su Fong asked the key question. These were all powerful geniuses. Which one of them did not have a final trump card? No one could guarantee that they would win all 9 battles. Thus, the order of the battles was extremely important. If they met the strongest expert at the beginning, they would be exhausted or injured. This would make it even more difficult for them later on. The Li Clan's Dao Saint nodded and said, "The order of the battles will naturally be decided by drawing lots." Drawing lots? Su Fong revealed a mocking smile. The Li Clan's Dao Saint's face darkened. He shouted, "Hen Wuxiang, if you have any objections, why don't you say it in front of everyone? If you dare to look down on me again, I will directly disqualify you." Su Fong looked at Xian Zheng and shouted, "Sir Xian Zheng, elders, I, Hen Wuxiang, have an objection to this, sir, from the Li Clan hosting the competition for the top 10. The Li Clan's Dao Saint's eyes flashed coldly. He asked darkly, "Hen Wuxiang, are you provoking me?" Su Fong sneered, "The elders and billions of cultivators have all seen what you've done. You're the one who presides over the competition for the top 10. It makes me wonder if there's any justice in this competition." Dongxian Daoyin suddenly said, "Previously, when Dongxian Wuheng and Hu Ditian were fighting, Sir Li was obviously biased towards Hu Ditian. I also suspect that I will suffer the same injustice in the competition for the top 10. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The discussion of billions of cultivators buzzed in the air. I will let you all know what the dignity of a Dao Saint is. The Li Clan's Dao Saint raised his eyebrows in anger. His eyes were burning with anger, and he was about to explode with thunder. Suddenly, Xian Zheng said in a majestic voice, "Elders, what do you think of what the two of them have said?" Tua Qianji snorted. Hen Wuxiang and Dongxian Daoyin are right. Besides, the Li clan has a genius in the top 10. It is inappropriate to let the Li clan host the competition. Most of the Dao Saints from the Central Divine region were silent. The Dao Saints from the other divine regions agreed with Tua Qianji's words. Fine, to avoid suspicion, I will leave. The Li clan's Dao Saint glanced at Su Fong and Dongxian Dao Yin fiercely. With a flick of his sleeve, he flew to the altar on the east side. In front of billions of cultivators from Jiushuan, as well as many top experts who were watching the competition for the top 10, the Li clan's Dao Yin was embarrassed by Su Fong, and Dongxian Daoyan. A Xian Guang flashed from between Xian Zheng's brows and turned into a Dharma body that flew above the battle arena. Looking at the top 10 geniuses, Xian Zheng's Dharma body said majestically, "You won't think that it is unfair for me to host the competition for the top 10, will you?" "We wouldn't dare." The top 10 geniuses cupped their fists. Xian Zheng grabbed a Xian Guang and condensed them into balls of light that floated in front of him. Then he said, "Come forward and draw lots to decide the order of the first round of the competition. Those who draw the same number jade tokens will fight one-on-one." The top 10 geniuses came forward and drew lots from their balls of light. When Su Fong was choosing, a vertical eye suddenly split open between his brows that was covered by the mask. He used the eye of the future and went through billions of calculations in a flash. Then, from these billions of calculations, he chose the best plan. Xian Zheng looked at Su Fong and raised his brows. He was a half-step Dao ancestor who had one foot in the Dao ancestor realm. Although Su Fong had done it secretly, it could not escape his senses. He glanced at Su Fong, but did not say anything. Su Fong waved his hand and grabbed a Xian Guang, a jade token with the number 3 on it. In other words, he would fight his opponent in the third round of the first round. As for who his opponent would be, there was no way to know yet. Xian Zheng said, "Those who draw the number 1 jade token enter the battle arena." Whoosh! The two geniuses entered the battle arena that was like a bubble. Xishuan Tianqing. His opponent was the expert from the monstrous race, Yuan Jin. The big goblin, Yuan Jin, transformed into a black-robed youth. He had thick eyebrows and big eyes, and looked a little silly. He was completely different from the usual arrogant and violent demon race. However, this demon race elite was able to defeat all his opponents and become the only demon race elite to enter the top 10. Xishuan Tianqing cupped his fists at Yuan Jin. Xishuan Tianqing of the Xishuan divine realm. Yuan Jin chuckled and looked honest. "I'm from the ape race. My name is Yuan Jin. I've seen your previous performance. I can't beat you, but this is the first battle. In order to not embarrass the demon race, I can only bite the bullet and fight you." The demon kept saying me, causing countless cultivators to burst into laughter. The demon race also has clowns. Xishuan Tianqing raised his eyebrows. His thoughts transformed into a light wheel formed from the 4 symbols and charged toward Yuan Kuang. Bang! Bang! Yuan Jin's body suddenly expanded and turned into a giant ape more than 20 meters tall. His muscles bulged, and he emitted a violent and evil demon chi. His face was ferocious, and he no longer looked like an honest country bumpkin. Boom! Yuan Jin punched out, and a fist seal that was 3 meters long flew out of his hand and collided with the light wheel. The fist seal shattered and the light wheel shook. Its attack also slowed down, but it still continued to crush Yuan Jin. "You're very strong. I can only use my most powerful innate ability." Yuan Ju, who had transformed into a giant ape, suddenly grinned, opened his mouth, and let out an earth-shaking roar of an ape. In an instant, the entire battle space was engulfed in a violent and evil sound wave. The cultivators outside were also affected. Their Dao hearts and wills were attacked by the cry. An instinctive feeling of fear surged from the bottom of their hearts. Dao masters and cultivators below them all trembled in their Dao hearts and souls. Their faces were full of fear. Some of the cultivators closer to the battle space with weaker Dao hearts and wills even peed in their pants. Xishuan Tianqing's body trembled. He almost lost his Dao heart and wills, and his face turned pale. That light wheel also collapsed under the impact of the ape cry. The light wheel also shattered. Xishuan Tianqing suddenly suffered a loss and was instantly enraged. He used the will visualization technique and burst out with an astonishing will to shatter the remaining power of the ape cry. "Eat my staff." Yuan Jin suddenly reached out and grabbed. A black staff that was hundreds of meters long smashed toward Xishuan Tianqing with a terrifying aura that could shatter the world. Swoosh! Swoosh! Xishuan Tianqing snorted coldly and released thousands of thoughts. They instantly turned into a 5-colored light wheel. Boom! The light wheel contained the 5 elements of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. They grew and multiplied endlessly and blocked the attack of the sky-shattering staff. The light wheel shook and immediately stabilized. That staff, however, shattered. You're stronger than me. I give up. I admit defeat. Yuan Jin directly admitted defeat and returned to his silly human youth appearance. Just like that, Sichuan Tianqing obtained his first victory. However, this victory was a little depressing. His handsome face was covered with a haze. Sichuan Tianqing's Dao heart and wills were impacted. Although it wasn't a serious injury, it would definitely affect him when he fought with the other geniuses. In his rage, he originally planned to vent his anger on Yuan Jin. Chapter 2996. Xian Zheng said majestically, "The one who drew the number 2 jade token, come on up." The genius from the Haotian divine realm, Jing Hao, flew out from the west side of the altar. When he flew into the dual space, exclamations came from outside the spatial barrier. Jing Hao looked over in surprise and saw a figure flying out from the west side of the altar. Suddenly, the divine light changed. It turned out that his opponent for the first round was Hu Ditian. That Jing Hao is too unlucky. He actually met Hu Ditian in his first battle. If Jing Hao is smart, he should just admit defeat and preserve his strength. Hu Ditian is too strong. Whoever meets him is unlucky. No one was optimistic about Jing Hao in this battle. Although Jing Hao is quite extraordinary, the gap between him and Hu Ditian was not small. Even he himself did not have much confidence. As soon as he entered the dual space, Hu Ditian said lightly, "Jing Hao, you're not my opponent. In order to preserve your strength, you should just admit defeat." Hu people's Daozi were so domineering. Before the battle even began, he had already made his opponent admit defeat. Jing Hao said, "Hu Ditian, I admit that I am not your opponent, but I will not give up in this battle. If I don't even have the courage to face defeat, how can I cultivate? I will definitely go all out in this battle." Who would have thought that Jing Hao would not give up? Hu Ditian gave an indifferent smile. "You will regret your decision. You're going all out just to show off how extraordinary this king is. You, as well as those other arrogant geniuses, are actually just stepping stones for this king to reach the peak." As soon as his voice fell, a supreme domineering aura arose spontaneously. A thought condensed into an emperor phantom, and with the supreme aura of a sovereign descending from the heavens, it charged towards Jing Hao. Haotian divine statue. Jing Hao condensed a thought with Haotian's power and will, and transformed into an old man in a green robe. He emitted a shocking will of the heavenly Tao and began to fight with the Emperor Phantom. Boom, boom, boom. The space shook violently, and the set-off fierce winds converged into a terrifying hurricane, causing the entire dual space to fall into chaos. Although Jing Hao's Haotian divine statue was clearly at a disadvantage, it was not to the extent of being defeated. Emperor's wrath cleaved the heavens. Hu Ditian didn't want to waste too much strength on Jing Hao. A Dharma body flashed out from between his eyebrows, holding an emperor's sword and slashing at Jing Hao. The sword light had yet to descend, but in a split second, the scenery around Jing Hao changed greatly. Corpses were strewn everywhere, and a sea of blood stretched for thousands of miles. The wrath of an emperor shattered the heavens and earth. Jing Hao's divine light changed in an instant. A green light gushed out from his body and quickly extended outwards, as if it was shrouding the sky. The surrounding 1,000 miles of corpses and 10,000 miles of blood sea were shattered layer by layer. Qi, Hu Ditian's sword of the emperor fell on the sky, giving everyone the illusion that the sword had cut through the sky. The sky was shattering layer by layer, but the sword light was still domineering and sharp. "I admit defeat." Jing Hao had no choice but to admit defeat. The emperor's sword still cut through the heavens as it fell towards Jing Hao. Jing Hao was sent flying by the sword light and immediately fell into a state of serious injury. He opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood mixed with internal organs. He glared hatefully at Hu Ditian and said, "Hu people's Tao child, I've seen how ruthless you are today." Hu Ditian said coldly, "I told you to admit defeat a long time ago, but you turned a deaf ear to my words. This is the price you should pay." Xian Zheng said imposingly, "Hu Ditian, Jing Hao has already admitted defeat. Why didn't you stop?" Hu Ditian cupped his fists and said, "This one made a mistake. Please forgive me, my lord." Xian Zheng said, "If this happens again, I'll directly declare you as a loser. Yes, Hu Detian replied with a bow. Then, he glanced at Jing Hao and smiled indifferently. Slowly, he flew towards the west side of the spell altar. Next, it was the battle between the geniuses who had drawn the third jade token. The badge that Su Fong had drawn was the third one. What a coincidence! The other genius who had drawn the third jade token was Long Tianxi from the Hong Tian Divine Realm. Actually, it wasn't a coincidence. Su Fong had used the eyes of future truth when he drew the lots, and the opponent he chose for his first battle was also Long Tianxi. Su Fong had been injured when Long Tianxi had chased after him, and he still hadn't recovered. Su Fong's personality was that he would punch back twice if you hit him once. How could he not take revenge on Long Tianxi? Unfortunately, killing was not allowed in the battle for the top 10, so Su Fong could only settle for the next best thing. Not only did he want to defeat Long Tianxi in his first battle, but he also wanted to severely injure him and make him lose again and again in the following battles. The two of them entered the battle space at the same time. Long Tianxi looked disdainfully at Su Fong and said, "Hen Wuxiang, admit defeat." Su Fong couldn't help but laugh. Admit defeat? There's nothing shameful about admitting defeat to me. If you don't, you won't just lose this battle. You won't be able to continue in the battle for the top 10, and it will also affect your path. You can choose for yourself which is more important. Long Tianxi smiled domineeringly. Su Fong's cold brows swept over him. I think it's more appropriate for you to admit defeat. Long Tianxi sneered. You're just like Jing Hao. You won't cry until you see the coffin. I'll let you know how laughable the strength you're so proud of is in front of me. My luck is boundless, and meeting me in your first battle is your tribulation. Remember, those who go against the heavens will be punished by the heavens. Su Fong mocked him without holding back. You're just a supreme luck brought to you by the violet fate heavenly dragon. What else do you have to be proud of? Besides, you didn't cultivate the violet fate heavenly dragon. Other than your status and luck, you're just a piece of trash. What right do you have to be arrogant in front of me? Status and luck are also part of my strength. I have them, but others don't. This is why I'm above countless cultivators, including you. You have no choice but to admit defeat. Long Tianxi's eyes were filled with murderous intent, and he shouted domineeringly. He released his thoughts, which turned into ethereal xianguang that even the primordial spirit couldn't see, and enveloped Su Fong. One thought, one tribulation. Long Tianxi is indeed extraordinary. Unfortunately, he met me. Su Fong's deep and cold eyes surged with a mysterious purple light. He clearly saw the xianguang formed by Long Tianxi's thoughts. Each thought contained the power of tribulation and will. It wasn't the ordinary power of tribulation, but the power of the heavenly Tao. It was the power of tribulation that would destroy, decay, and decay all living things. One thought, one tribulation. 3,000 thoughts turned into 3,000 tribulations, turning Su Fong and the surrounding 1,000 miles into a world of tribulation. Anyone who touched the xianguang formed by his thoughts would immediately be met with unpredictable misfortune. Violet Fate Dharma Body. Eyes of the future. Su Fong activated his Violet Fate Dharma Body. Mysterious purple chi surged out of his body and enveloped him. At the same time, he used his eyes of the future to divine the future. Asterisk whoosh. Asterisk Su Fong passed through the xianguang as if he were flying through the void. In less than 10 breaths, he flew through the air and attacked Long Tianxi. He has such amazing luck. If I devour his luck, my Violet Fate Heavenly Dragon will definitely rise to new heights. Long Tianxi looked at Su Fong with surprise in his eyes, which quickly turned into endless greed. In the thick purple chi above Long Tianxi's head, the Violet Divine Dragon roared. It exploded with a mysterious purple chi that contained the power of the heavenly Tao. It suppressed Su Fong's luck. A shocking repulsive force surged from all directions. It wasn't an ordinary repulsive force. It was as if Su Fong wasn't tolerated by the heavenly Tao. It was the power of the heavenly Tao that wanted to expel Su Fong from the world. If the spider wasn't injured and didn't want to reveal my identity, I could use the wheel of tribulation to suppress you. But even if I can't use the spider, I can still easily suppress you. No matter how powerful your heavenly Tao luck is, it comes from the heavenly Tao. I'll use the true power of the heavenly Tao to suppress you. Su Fong sneered inwardly. He suddenly took a step forward. His foot landed in the void with a rumble that sounded like a heavenly drum, resonating with the heavenly Tao. Su Fong had activated Slaughter's heart. With the help of its beating heart, his body resonated with the heavenly Tao, creating a shocking sound of the heavenly Tao. Although Su Fong didn't activate Slaughter's heart with all his strength, it was enough to suppress Long Tianci. Boom, boom, boom. The surrounding heavenly Tao's repulsive force was crushed by Su Fong's foot. Su Fong took a dozen more steps, shattering the power of the violet fate heavenly dragon. Oh! A faint cry of surprise rang out in the void. But other than a supreme existence like Daozu, no one else could hear it. Su Fong was less than 10,000 feet away from Long Tianci. The violet fate heavenly dragon trembled in fear in the sound of the heavenly Tao. Long Tianci's luck came from the heavenly Tao. It was bestowed by the heavenly Tao. Su Fong had used Slaughter's heart to resonate with the heavenly Tao. This was the true power of the heavenly Tao. What would happen when a luck bestowed by the heavenly Tao met the true power of the heavenly Tao? In the face of true heavenly might, the life born of the violet fate heavenly dragon's heavenly Tao was filled with reverence and fear. Long Tianci trembled in fear amidst the thunderous footsteps. Meeting you is my fate. Defying the heavens will lead to the wrath of the heavens? Su Fong looked down on Long Tianci, his eyes full of contempt. It was as if the heavens were looking down on a tiny ant. I possess unparalleled luck and am protected by the heavenly Tao. Who can suppress me? Long Tianci let out a thunderous roar. Thick purple qi surged out his body and was sucked into the violet fate heavenly dragon's mouth. The trembling violet fate heavenly dragon raised its head again. You won't cry until you see the coffin. Su Fong rudely returned Long Tianci's words. He took another step forward, bringing with him the sound of the heavenly Tao. Roar! The violet fate heavenly dragon let out a roar filled with fear. It burrowed into the purple clouds above Long Tianci's head and disappeared. Long Tianci was struck by the sound of the heavenly way. He opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. The dense purple mist that enveloped his surroundings and his head instantly became much fainter. A layer of deathly gray haze also appeared on his face. Kneel! Su Fong shouted coldly. His voice contained a powerful killing intent that attacked Long Tianci's Tao heart. Chapter 2997. Long Tianci, do you feel that it's very humiliating to kneel before me? Have you thought about how others would feel when you humiliate them while standing high above them? Su Fong gazed indifferently at Long Tianci while his voice carried boundless ridicule, and it was like numerous sharp swords that stabbed into Long Tianci's heart. I admit defeat. Long Tianci spoke with great difficulty. He had no choice but to admit defeat now, because if he continued forcefully, then it wouldn't be as simple as losing face and suffering injuries. The slightest mistake might cause his Tao heart to shatter under the pressure of Su Fong's terrifying heavenly might. In that way, even if he possessed heaven-defying luck, it would be difficult for him to take a single step forward in his cultivation, and he would at most be able to attain the peak of the Tao Lord realm. So what if I've lost this battle? Is there any genius that can always win without losing? Since you, Hen Wuxiang, can't accomplish that, then it's extremely normal for me, Long Tianci, to lose this battle. Long Tianci grunted with laughter. Yes, it's true that no one can always win without losing. I've experienced countless defeats as well. However, some are able to rise from their defeats, and some are able to forever sink beneath their defeats. You, Long Tianci, are the latter, because you're only a piece of trash that relied on your status and luck, and you're not a genius. So, you're only deceiving yourself. Su Fong bluntly tore apart the last piece of cloth that covered Long Tianci's face, and then he mercilessly sprinkled a handful of salt on Long Tianci's bleeding wounds. Crack! Long Tianci heard his Tao heart shatter, and then another mouthful of blood sprayed from his mouth. Su Fong's words were 10 times more formidable than a divine ability or will attack, and it caused Long Tianci's Tao heart to suffer a heavy injury. Even though it hadn't shattered, cracks had appeared on it. Hen Wuxiang, there's no enmity between us, so why are you doing this to me? Long Tianci gnashed his teeth. There's no special reason. I just feel that crushing a lofty and arrogant piece of trash like you is fun. Su Fong smiled casually as he flew out of the battle dimension. Trash. Fun. Long Tianxi's Dao heart was shattering once more. A strand of humiliation and rage surged in his heart, and it caused him to spit out another mouthful of blood, while his aura instantly became dispirited. He actually humiliated a peerless genius just for fun. That Hen Wuxiang is actually so cold and ruthless. As expected of a cultivator from Yuxian, he's cold and heartless. It's best not to provoke him. Strange, why doesn't Hen Wuxiang's divine ability have the slightest trace of the profound nether divine realm? What kind of divine ability did Hen Wuxiang use to defeat Long Tianxi? It was actually able to surpass the heavenly Dao's fortune. The more than 30 Dao saints of the Elder Group, as well as billions of cultivators, were all discussing Su Fong in secret. They were shocked by his powerful divine arts and ruthless methods. They were also confused by his voice of the heavenly Dao. The other top 10 geniuses on the west side of the altar looked at Su Fong fearfully. Even the insufferably arrogant Hu Ditian looked at Su Fong with a grave expression. Tua Qianji's brows were tightly furrowed. He had already sensed that the drum-like sound coming from Su Fong's body was coming from the heart of the foreign race expert, Slayer. However, he could not question Su Fong about it in public. Su Fong had just sat down on the throne when Dongxian Daozu's voice suddenly rang in his mind. Su Fong, the Eastern Xian divine realm has treated you well. Why did you steal Slayer's heart from the Blood Valley? Who would have thought that Dongxian Daozu would also be paying attention to the battle of the top 10? With his strength, it was naturally not difficult for him to discover Slayer's heart in Su Fong's Blood Fury avatar. Su Fong's entire body seemed to be sealed in ice. Under Daozu's will, he could not even think properly. Suddenly, an ethereal aura swept out from Su Fong's body and dispersed Dongxian Daozu's will. Then, Shixian Daozu spoke. Old thing, is a broken heart worth this ancestor's disciple to steal? He picked it up casually. Whatever he picked up belongs to him. How dare you bully this ancestor's disciple? This ancestor will not let you off. After a moment of silence, Dongxian Daozu's voice rang out again. So it was taken from the heaven-piercing Blood King Rotan. Fine, it looks like Slayer's heart is your fortune. This ancestor will not want it. Shixian Daozu snorted. This ancestor thinks that you have no face to ask for it back. Dongxian Daozu ignored Shixian Daozu and laughed loudly. You can be considered half a disciple of Dongxian now that you have received Dongshuan's supreme fortune. You can't run away from this. Ah, shameless old thing, you want to snatch this ancestor's disciple again. Shixian Daozu snorted coldly. His voice gradually faded away and disappeared into the depths of Su Fong's body. Su Fong wiped the sweat off his forehead, and only then did he feel his entire body turn cold. His magic robe was actually drenched in sweat. The fourth battle of the first round had begun. Sima Xiaoxiao and Yi Feishu had also entered the battle space. Sima Xiaoxiao's display of ability made Su Fong look at her in a different light. She activated the Black Mirror Xian Bao and released a terrifying divine power of fire, turning it into a world of fire. Coupled with Mo Yin's calamitous fire, Yi Feishu had no choice but to give his all. Yi Feishu released 6 avatars with different auras and released his thoughts at the same time to condense different runes. The runes came above Sima Xiaoxiao one by one and started to combine into a vast formation, cutting and shattering Sima Xiaoxiao's world of fire. Just as Su Fong was paying attention to the battle between the two, Xianzheng transmitted his telepathic thought. Hen Wuxiang, you purposely broke Long Tianxi's Dao heart just now. Long Tianxi is Hong Tian Daozu's only disciple. You must be careful. Su Fong replied. Thank you for your reminder, sir. You have offended many geniuses now. Each of them has the strongest force in Jiuxuan behind them. Even if you're the first in Jiuxuan's heavens chosen, you will have a hard time in the human world in the future. As far as I know, Mother Dark Daozu doesn't have a disciple like you. Who will protect you then? Sir Xianzheng means, I see that you are a rare talent. I have the intention to bring you to my side and work for me. I can also guide you in your cultivation. If the foreign races invade the human race in the future, I will become the leader of the human race. At that time, you'll also be a big shot of the human race." Who would have thought that Xianzheng would actually start to recruit Su Fong without any hesitation? It was no wonder that he did not expose Su Fong when he saw that he was cheating with the future True Eye. What shocked Su Fong even more was that Xianzheng's ambition was so huge that he wanted to become the leader of the human race. "Sir, I have offended the Hu people, Yi clan, and Li clan of the 5 great divine races. I have also offended the geniuses of the Western Profound Divine Realm, Hong Tian Divine Realm, and Qi Tian Divine Realm. If it is because of me, won't you be implicated? This little bit of face of mine is still useful in the human race, let alone for a genius like you. Let me think about it. Of course, I am not in a hurry." The battle between Sima Xiao and Yi Feishu went on for half a day. The consumption of energy was shocking. In the end, Yi Feishu had to rely on the ability of his mahogany body to absorb what essence from the surrounding space to defeat Sima Xiao. Only Dongxian Daoyan and Li Zhan had not fought in the first round. The last round was naturally between the two of them. "Dongxian Daoyan, I am participating in the Jiushuan's Heaven selection not only for the Li clan, but also for myself. I want to fight with the real top geniuses to hone my Dao heart. I didn't expect to meet you in the first battle of the top 10. Perhaps I can't defeat you, but I will still fight with all my strength. I hope you can give me enough respect and show me your true strength." Li Zhan exuded a terrifying fighting spirit. His eyes burned with the fire of war. Similar to Dongxian Wuhan, Li Zhan was also a battle maniac. The stronger the opponent, the more excited he was. Dongxian Daoyan nodded and said, "You are different from the other Taoists of the 5 great divine races. You are not arrogant and self-righteous. You are worthy of my respect. Make your move. I will let you fight to your heart's content." Hearing his words, Hu Diqian and Yi Feishu frowned. Their eyes that were looking at Dongxian Daoyan were cold. "Very well." Li Zhan's gaze was incomparably hearty as he stretched his arms. Over 3,000 thoughts flashed from between his brows, emitting a dazzling glow. Gold, silver, white. Cold lights of various colors intertwined and formed a world. Everything around Dongxian Daoyan turned cold and hard. The glaring Xinguang made him lose his sense of the outside world. His Dao heart, Dao palaces, and soul felt like they were being stabbed by countless sharp swords. He was about to turn into metal. "Good," Dongxian Daoyan praised. The power of yin and yang surged from his body and whistled around him, shattering the surrounding shackles layer by layer. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Li Zhan's 5 avatars were gold, silver, crimson, white, and black in different colors, bursting with different powers as they charged towards Dongxian Daoyan. Li Zhan's physical body was burning his thoughts at the same time, combining his physical body and his powers to strike out ferocious punches. Layers of punches crowded together, forming a terrifying attack that pressed towards Dongxian Daoyan. It felt like Dongxian Daoyan was caught in the attack of thousands of soldiers and horses, about to be swallowed up in an instant. Dongxian Daoyan's gaze was solemn as thousands of thoughts suddenly shot out from his pupils. Each thought turned into a black and white yin-yang fish. Over 1,000 thoughts gathered to form a giant yin-yang fish that was intertwined in black and white. As it spun wildly, it released a terrifying power that could destroy everything. Boom, boom, boom. Waves of frenzied collisions lasted for half an hour. Li Zhan finally could not hold on any longer. The world was crumbling and his attacks were shattering layer by layer. His 5 avatars and physical body were sent flying by the aftershock of the collisions. Li Zhan spat out a mouthful of blood, his aura weakening immediately. However, he kept his 5 avatars, and his battle intent exploded once more as he laughed maniacally. Again, an angry roar then came. "You're not Dongxian Daoyan's match. Why aren't you admitting defeat?" It was the Li family's Dao saint who saw that Li Zhan was obviously not Dongxian Daoyan's match, so he stopped Li Zhan in order to preserve his strength. "Dongxian Daoyan, let's fight again in the future if we have a chance." Li Zhan was like a deflated balloon, his battle intent gone. He cupped his fists at Dongxian Daoyan and left in embarrassment. The first round of the battle between the top 10 had ended. Sichuan Tianqing, Hu Ditian, Su Fong, Yi Feishu, and Dongxin Daoyan had all won a round. After a 10-year break, the second round of the battle between the top 10 began. According to the rules, the second round was based on the drawing of lots in the first round. The winner would choose his opponent. The winner of the first round was Sichuan Tianqing, so he had the right to choose his opponent. Hen Wuxiang, come up and accept your death. Chapter 2998. I have been waiting for you. Su Fang's lips curled slightly, his eyes flashing with the light of confidence and intelligence. When the lots were drawn for the first round of the top 10 competition, Su Fang had used the eyes of future truth to predict that Xixin Tianqing would challenge him in the second round. Xixin Tianqing was a direct disciple of the Daozu. If one counted, he was Su Fang's senior sect brother. However, Sichuan Tianqing was arrogant, conceited, and incomparably tyrannical. Just because Su Fang eliminated his younger brother in the group battle, he wanted to seek revenge for the smallest grievance. Even Shu Wanjin was injured by him. In Su Fang's mind, Shu Wanjin was his closest relative. Xixin Tianqing had wounded Shu Wanjin, so Su Fang naturally would not think of him as his senior sect brother. This time, he would teach him a hard lesson. Su Fang's mind was sharp as he slowly flew into the battle space. Hen Wuxiang, if you kneel and admit defeat now, this seat will forgive you this time due to your relationship with Xixin. Xixin Tianqing shouted domineeringly at Su Fang and did not put Su Fang in his eyes at all. Su Fang countered, if you kneel and admit your wrongs to my senior sect sister now, I may let you go. Madman, what will you use to win against this seat? Xixin Tianqing snorted at Su Fang's words. Then he looked disdainfully at Su Fang. This seat is not a piece of trash like Long Tianzi, who relied on luck to enter the top 10. This seat was able to become a direct disciple of the Daozu because of my talent, strength, and hard work. If you want to win against this seat, your outcome will be terrible. Su Fang smiled coldly and said directly, after saying so much, you just want to prove how great you are. From this, it can be seen how inferior you are. The reason you dislike me so much is not just because of your younger brother, but because I used the formless heavenly wheel. You are jealous and feel threatened. Am I right? What a joke. It's useless to say more. When I step on your head, you will know that the only value of a person like you is to witness my rise. As the sound of Sichuan Tianqing's voice faded, a shocking will erupted forth, transforming into a wheel of will of the heavenly Tao that blasted towards Su Fang. Boom! Su Fang also summoned the heavenly wheels of the formless heavenly wheels and used the will visualization technique. The heavenly wheels of will clashed with the will of the Western Xian heavenly crystal. The clash of wills gave people the illusion that the world was falling apart. Su Fang and Sichuan Tianqing were both pushed back by the shockwaves from the collision. However, Su Fang was clearly pushed back further than Sichuan Tianqing. This is just the beginning, and you're already backing down? Sichuan Tianqing sneered with disdain. Next, I will make you feel despair. 5 elements, heavenly wheel, suppress. Then, he waved his hand and pointed his finger. A 5-colored light, wheel condensed from his thoughts, rolled towards Su Fang. Heavenly wheel of yin-yang. Su Fang used the yin-yang, celestial powers of the heavenly Tao spell body to form a heavenly wheel and collided with the 5 elements heavenly wheel. The battle space was filled with the impact of a huge explosion. Such a shocking scene was like a battle between 2 peak Tao Xian cultivators. It was enough to show Sichuan Tianqing's shocking strength. On the other hand, it was enough to show that Su Fang was no weakling. Cultivating the formless heavenly wheels caused the strength of Su Fang's various spell bodies to skyrocket. This gave him the right to compete with the top talents of the human race. Looks like your cultivation of the formless heavenly wheels has reached an extremely high level. It's a pity that you haven't cultivated the great way of the formless heavenly wheels, so you can't unleash the true power of the formless heavenly wheels. Next, I will show you what the true formless heavenly wheels is, the 10,000 forms heavenly wheels. Sichuan Tianqing no longer underestimated Su Fang like before. He unleashed his strongest attack. An illusory Xian Guang shot out from between his eyebrows. In an instant, it covered 1,000 miles of space and enveloped Su Fong, turning him into a world of nothingness. Light wheels surged out from the world. There were a total of 3,000 light wheels. They were all formed by Xishuan Tianqing's thoughts. Layer after layer, they changed continuously. From nothingness to the four forms, then from the four forms to the heavens, earth, wind, thunder, water, fire, mountains, lakes, and finally, the 10,000 forms of the heavens and earth. Rumble. Su Fong was encircled in the center by the light wheels. He felt like he was in the middle of a millstone. The heavenly wheels rolled and released the terrifying power of the 10,000 forms. The light wheels gradually shrank. A terrifying pressure rolled towards Su Fong from all directions. It shackled the surrounding space and wanted to crush Su Fong into powder. Su Fong activated the yin-yang heavenly wheels and formed a defensive light wheel around him. Poof! The yin-yang heavenly wheels lasted for less than 20 breaths. After a series of rapid flashes, they started to shatter and finally collapsed. Fortunately, Su Fong had a strong physical body. In addition, he activated the black-yellow spell body in time to release the divine power to form a defense. That was why he was not injured. However, Su Fong was trapped in the shackles. Sooner or later, he would be killed by that terrifying pressure. Such a shocking attack had already surpassed the limits of the Tao profound realm. It was even more difficult to imagine that it was an abhijna executed by a peak Tao Lord. The Western Xian divine realm's top abhijna, the formless heavenly wheels, was actually this powerful. Hen Wuxiang Neil. Xishuan Tianqing's deep eyes revealed a smug and cold look. He opened his mouth and blew out a breath. His will and Taoist aura caused the layers of light wheels to spin faster and faster. The pressure released was also even more shocking. This person was vicious and merciless. He wanted to at least severely injure Su Fong before Su Fong admitted defeat. Just as Su Fong had guessed, the formless heavenly wheels was a supreme abhijna created by the Western Xian Daozu. In the Western Xian divine realm, only his immediate disciples could cultivate it. Not only did Su Fong control the formless heavenly wheels, but he was also able to use them to such an astonishing extent. He crushed all his opponents along the way, causing Xishuan Tianqing to feel jealous and even threatened. Xishuan Tianqing had once heard the wine saint mention that the Western Xian Daozu had taken in another disciple. This disciple's talent was unparalleled, and even he could not compare to him. Xishuan Tianqing did not know who this junior apprentice brother of his was. When he saw Su Fong use the formless heavenly wheels this time, he naturally assumed that Su Fong was that person. Naturally, he felt threatened in his heart. His brother's elimination by Su Fong was just an excuse. He was looking for an opportunity to defeat Su Fong and even kill Su Fong to prove himself. Xishuan Tianqing revealed a look of disdain as he looked at Su Fong, who was trapped and about to be suppressed. It seems like I have no choice but to use my trump card. Su Fong's deep and cold eyes suddenly flashed with an ethereal and illusory light. It landed on the layers of crushing light rings around him. Heavenly prying eye. He was trying to find a flaw in Xishuan Tianqing's formless heavenly wheels. The formless heavenly wheels was a supreme abhijna that contained the transformations of the heavenly way. Its power was unparalleled. However, no matter how extraordinary Xishuan Tianqing was, he could not use the formless heavenly wheels as flawless as the heavenly way. Unless it was a supreme being like the Xixin sect, who had already grasped a part of the true essence of the Great Way, who could use it personally. Since there were flaws, Su Fong could use the unraveling of the heavens to find these flaws and destroy them in one strike. In the blink of an eye, a domineering smile appeared on Su Fong's cold mask. A wave of chaotic aura surged out from his body and fused with his physical body. Then, Su Fong took a step forward. The astonishing shackles around him were like nothing to him. Whoosh under Xishuan Tianqing's incredulous gaze, Su Fong charged to the innermost layer of the light rings. He suddenly extended a finger and tapped on the light ring. Poof! A wave of primordial chaos surged from his fingertip and came into contact with the light ring. The light ring burst like a bubble and exploded. Not only that, the shattering of the innermost layer of the light ring triggered a chain reaction. Layers of light rings started to shatter from the inside out. Poof, poof, poof. In less than 10 breaths, more than 3,000 light rings were completely shattered from the inside out. Finally, there was nothing left. Su Fong used the unraveling of the heavens to find a flaw. Then, he used the primordial chaos to destroy everything with a single finger. Sichuan Tianqing was dumbfounded by this scene. His heart was in turmoil, and his mind was filled with the word impossible. A single finger actually destroyed the Western Mystic Divine regions and the entire Jiuxuan's ultimate ability? What ability did Hen Wuxiang use? How could it be so shocking? It's too unbelievable. Are my eyes playing tricks on me? Am I seeing things? The billions of cultivators were all shocked. Then, their exclamations gathered together and rang out like a tidal wave. The entire space was filled with gasps of surprise. The Tao Saints of the Council of Elders on the east side of the battle space and the geniuses on the west side of the altar were also in disbelief. The ones who were most shocked were Sima Xiaoxiao, Dongxian Huihuang, and the other geniuses who had personally witnessed Su Fong destroy the enemy with a single finger. Dongxian Huihuang and Qiu Changfeng, in particular, had one of their arms destroyed by Su Fong with a single finger. Sima Xiaoxiao stared at Su Fong, her heart in turmoil. That Hen Wuxiang is Su Fong? Impossible. Su Fong can't possibly have Hen Wuxiang's shocking ability. Besides, Su Fong is only from the heaven-forsaken slave tribe of a low-level universe. How could he be protected by the Dark Mother Daozu? Su Fong charged to Sichuan Tianqing's side in a flash. He stretched out his right hand again and pointed his index finger at Sichuan Tianqing. Sichuan Tianqing's Dao heart was already in a mess. In addition, he had used up a lot of energy to execute the ability just now. In his shock, he quickly deployed a defense, a revolving light ring forming a powerful protective aura around him. Puffed. Su Fong broke the light ring's defense again with a single finger. His finger was only a few inches away from Sichuan Tianqing's forehead. A gentle tap would be enough to destroy his brain. This seed has lost. Sichuan Tianqing closed his eyes in pain. Su Fong smirked coldly. The 10,000 forms heavenly wheels is indeed a supreme ability. However, no matter how powerful an ability is, it depends on the user. You call yourself the top genius of the Western Mystic Divine region, but you're nothing in front of me, Hen Wuxiang. Chapter 2999. Didn't you just say that you wanted to step on my head and that the only value of someone like me was to witness your rise? Now that you're being stepped on by me, I wonder what you're thinking? Su Fong rudely rubbed salt on Sichuan Tianqing's wounds. Sichuan Tianqing had gotten together with Xu Wanjin, but Su Fong could not kill him. Thus, he wanted to deal him a blow and affect his Dao heart. Conflict, humiliation, pain. After suffering such a crushing defeat, and just when victory was in sight, he was suddenly stepped on by his enemy. Sichuan Tianqing's heart was filled with agony. Suddenly, a dignified voice echoed in Sichuan Tianqing's mind. A true genius Dao heart cannot be shaken even when a blade pierces the heart. What does a trifling defeat count for? Which genius has never failed before? And which one dares to say that they are invincible? You've only suffered a single setback, yet you're already so dispirited. You truly make your master disappointed. Master? Sichuan Tianqing was both surprised and delighted, his mind roused. Master is right. On the path to the peak, who can have a smooth journey? A trifling defeat is nothing. I will climb back up from where I fell. There will come a day when I will step on Hen Wuxiang. With this thought, Sichuan Tianqing's mind became hale and hearty. His previous dispiritedness was swept away, and his blood began to boil. The lofty aspirations that Su Fong had nearly crushed were also rediscovered. Little did he know, one must know one's limits and avoid blind arrogance. There are some people that you will never be able to surpass, even if you expend an eternity of energy. If you make an enemy out of such a person, you will ultimately find that the distance between you and him will only grow. The final result will only be more vexation and even a knot in your heart. That's all I have to say. Reflect on yourself. Sichuan Daozu's next words were like a bucket of ice water poured over Sichuan Tianqi's head. In the human world, perhaps there are peerless geniuses that I cannot surpass. But this person is definitely not Hen Wuxiang. Sichuan Tianqi consoled himself. Looking at Su Feng, Sichuan Tianqi inexplicably snorted and then flew out of the dueling dimension. You've recovered from the blow so quickly? He's only Master's direct disciple. Even I can't help but admire such a Dao heart. When Su Feng saw Sichuan Tianqi quickly recover from his defeat, he was astonished. Hen Wuxiang actually defeated Sichuan Tianqi. What kind of abijna did Hen Wuxiang use? He was actually able to break the Western Xian Tianqi's formless heavenly wheels so easily. What a peerless abijna. What a peerless genius. Sichuan Tianqi's S's to Dao's, Sichuan's to the top 3. That's right. The champion of this 9 profound heaven selection will definitely be one of the 3 of them. Billions of cultivators were discussing among themselves. The crowd didn't know what Yuan Jin was talking about, but they all looked at the big goblin in astonishment. The Yao race world has been invaded by the foreign races. Countless monsters have been devoured by the foreign races. How tragic. Now, the monsters have no choice but to live in the human race's southern mystic divine domain and live under their roof. They have been humiliated by the human cultivators everywhere. Some of them have been turned into slaves. Some of them have had their tendons pulled out and their skin peeled off. Their inner cores and bodies have been used to refine pills and treasures. We monsters are so miserable. You humans have a saying, without the lips, the teeth will feel cold. The monsters have been annihilated, and the strength of the human race has also been weakened. I beg my friends of the human race, please be merciful to us monsters. Yuan Jin was crying in the dual space, and the word miserable kept coming out of his mouth. He looked extremely miserable. The reason why the experts of the monster race were able to participate in the Jiuquan Heaven selection and compete with the human geniuses was because the higher-ups of the human race wanted to ally with the monster race. However, the monster race had always been unscrupulous, cruel, and evil. After escaping to the southern mystic divine domain, they would often clash with the cultivators. Moreover, many cultivators would often capture the big goblin as slaves to refine pills and treasures. The higher-ups of the human race turned a blind eye to this. Who would have thought that Yuan Jin would use the opportunity of the top 10 competition to complain in front of everyone? No one expected this. Yuan Jin continued to blabber on, and he spoke for an incense stick's worth of time. Hu Ditian's face was ashen. In the end, he couldn't help but shout angrily, "Yuan Jin, are you done? If you are, then fight me." I'm done. Yuan Jin wiped the tears off his face and chuckled at Hu Ditian. He didn't look miserable at all. I can't beat you. I admit defeat. Yuan Jin cupped his fist at Hu Ditian and swaggered out of the duel space. Hu Ditian was actually toyed with by a big goblin. He was so angry that his eyes were spitting fire. After Yuan Jin's antics, the atmosphere became a lot more relaxed. It was no longer as heavy as before. Yi Feishu chose his opponent for the 3rd match of the 2nd round. In order to preserve his strength, Yi Feishu chose Jing Hao. In the 1st round, Jing Hao was injured by Hu Ditian. In addition, his strength was already relatively weak. In Yi Feishu's eyes, Jing Hao is a soft persimmon that couldn't be any softer. Even if Jing Hao is in his peak condition, he is definitely not Yi Feishu's opponent. There is no suspense in this match. Jing Hao will definitely admit defeat in this match to preserve his strength for the next challenge. He doesn't have much strength in the first place. Why would he need to preserve his strength? No one was optimistic about Jing Hao, including Su Feng. They all thought that Jing Hao would definitely lose this match. The wisest choice would be to give up this match. Who knew? Jing Hao cupped his fists at Yi Feishu. Yi Clan's Taoist, please enlighten me. Yi Feishu said in surprise, "You are not admitting defeat?" Jing Hao said in a serious tone, "Although I will definitely lose this match, I will not give up. I still want to fight with you. Please enlighten me. You know that you are no match for me, yet you still insist on fighting. What a fool. Yi Feishu sneered. Then he opened his mouth and spat out a xinguang. It turned into a peach pit and floated in the air in front of him. It was not a real peach pit. It was formed by Yi Feishu's thoughts, magic power, Taoist rhyme, and will. Chi chi chi. The peach pit exploded and released a shocking suction force. It crazily devoured all the aura in the surrounding space. Even Jing Hao's life, force, and magic power could not be controlled and were devoured by the peach pit. Then the peach pit suddenly cracked open and sprouts grew out from it. The suction force it released became even more shocking. All the aura in the battle space crazily rushed towards the peach pit. The space was shaking and whistling. Jing Hao could not control his aura as well. A vast aura surged out from Jing Hao's body. It instantly formed a green barrier. It was as if a layer of heaven covered him and blocked the suction force released by the peach pit. You are just a speck of light. You dare to compete with the moon? You overestimate yourself. Yi Feishu sneered. He released a puppet that looked like it was carved out of peach wood and charged towards Jing Hao. Boom, boom, boom. The heaven around Jing Hao shook violently under the attack of Yi Feishu's avatar. It shattered layer by layer. Jing Hao gritted his teeth. His thoughts turned into a tall and majestic green figure. His body was burning with green flames. He charged out of the heaven barrier in a flash and started a fight with Yi Feishu's avatar. He actually burned his thoughts to attack, causing his strength to increase by 10 times. He pushed Yi Feishu's avatar back and shattered it. Since you want to die, I will fulfill your wish. Chapter 3000. Boom, boom, boom. Yi Feishu's 6 celestial bodies formed runes at the same time and unleashed their attacks. They slashed at the green shadow formed by Jing Hao's burning thoughts and the firmament defense. The attacks were shocking, and the green shadow was slashed into pieces. Under Yi Feishu's frenzied attacks, the firmament defense shrank layer by layer until it was only 10 feet wide. The light dimmed, and it looked like it was about to collapse. Jing Hao's burning thoughts was equivalent to burning his own magic power and will. The consumption was heavy, and his body was trembling. However, his will was still strong as he frantically unleashed his defense. Damn lunatic. It's fine if you want to go crazy, but why do you have to fight with me? I'll destroy you. Yi Feishu activated his 6 celestial bodies at the same time, and the consumption was shocking. He originally thought that Jing Hao was a soft persimmon and could easily win the battle. Who knew that the result would be like this? How could he not be angry? Under Yi Feishu's attacks, the firmament defense finally collapsed. Who knew? Jing Hao's body suddenly released an ethereal aura and projected it into the surrounding void. In an instant, a vicissitude, vast and supremely dignified aura instantly descended upon the battle space, and an incomparably powerful will enveloped the surroundings. Under the pressure of the will, Yi Feishu spat out 3 mouthfuls of blood. The 6 celestial bodies' attacks were shattered under the pressure, and they trembled as if they were going to collapse at any time. The entire battle space was trembling. Even Xianzheng, who was half a step away from Daozu, was shocked. I didn't expect Jing Hao to have a breakthrough at the critical moment and attract Hao Tian's will. Extraordinary. This kid is extraordinary. Waves of green aura swept towards Jing Hao's divine body and enveloped him. The aura seeped into his body and caused his weak aura to increase rapidly. Soon, he recovered to his peak state. After half an hour, Jing Hao absorbed all the green aura into his body, and the terrifying Hao Tian's will also dissipated. Jing Hao let out a loud laugh. Yi Feishu, let's fight again. Yi Feishu's divine aura changed instantly. He didn't expect Jing Hao to turn the tables in the end. Boom, boom. Under Jing Hao's counterattack, the vast will and power of Hao Yin seemed to want to crush Yi Feishu. Yi Feishu was forced to retreat step by step. In the end, he had no choice but to grit his teeth and admit defeat. Such an outcome caused all the cultivators to be shocked, and they exclaimed in shock. Yi Feishu had made a wrong choice and had paid a huge price for it. Not only had he lost the battle, but he had also consumed a lot of energy and suffered heavy injuries. He was ambitious and wanted to reach the top 3, but now it seemed impossible. Dongxian Daoyan would choose his opponent for the next battle. There were only 2 people he could choose to challenge, Long Tianci and Sima Xiaoxiao. When Dongxian Daoyan looked towards the west side of the altar, Long Tianci's gaze began to evade him. The battle with Su Fong had caused him to completely lose his confidence and fighting spirit. How would he dare face Dongxian Daoyan? Dongxian Daoyan smirked in disdain. You only have your current achievements with some luck. You're just a piece of trash in the end. I don't care to fight you. Sima Xiaoxiao, please come up and fight with this seat. Long Tianci was humiliated and enraged by Dongxian Daoyan's disdain. Sima Xiaoxiao flew into the battle space. Dongxian Daoyan said in a low voice, I wasn't in Dongxian at the beginning of the 9 heaven selection. I heard that you wanted to crush Dongshuan's genius in the finals of the Blood Valley. You, Dongxian Wuhan, and the other 3 geniuses weren't in Dongxian. Only Su Fong is qualified to fight with me in the entire Dongxian. If you want the title of Dongshuan's top champion, I'll give it to you. I admit defeat in this battle. Sima Xiaoxiao cupped his fists at Dongxian Daoyan and left the battle space. Su Fong thought to himself, Sima Xiaoxiao is definitely not Dongxian Daoyan's opponent. Admitting defeat now to preserve his strength is the wisest choice. Only Long Tianci and Li Zhan were left in the last battle of the second round. Li Zhan released a strong fighting spirit like a god of war, oppressing Long Tianci to the point that his will almost crumbled. He had to admit defeat and humiliation before the battle had even begun. Long Tianci has unparalleled providence. How spirited was he back then? Now, he's like a piece of trash. What a pity. A cultivator's cultivation depends on his own efforts. Whether it's identity or luck, they're all just external forces in the end. That Long Tianci is also unlucky. I don't know how he offended Hen Wuxiang. His Dao heart was shattered in the first battle, and he's now a piece of trash that everyone can step on. Many cultivators discussed heatedly, feeling sorry for Long Tianci. There were also some who used Long Tianci as an example to teach the younger generation. Long Tianci was filled with humiliation and resentment when he heard the crowd's discussion. He looked at Su Fong with hatred, looking like he wanted to swallow Su Fong whole. The second round came to an end. Su Fong, Dongxian Daoyan, Hu Ditian, and Li Zhan had won both battles. The others also had their own victories and losses. It was hard to tell who would have a last laugh. After a 10-year break, Xianzheng announced loudly, "The third round begins." Su Fong had won the first battle in the second round, so he was the first to choose his opponent. Su Fong flew from the altar into the battle space. His divine light swept over the other geniuses and finally landed on Hu Ditian. I didn't expect you to choose me in the third round. Your courage is commendable. Hu Ditian smiled domineeringly and stood up from his throne. Su Fong sneered. Did I say I would choose you? Hu Ditian's brows furrowed. Are you toying with me? Even the demon clan can toy with you. So why can't I toy with you? Su Fong sneered. Hu Ditian's eyes flashed with murderous intent. If you want to enrage me, you've succeeded. If you have the guts, fight me. Su Fong mocked. Do you think I'm an idiot who doesn't know how to preserve my strength? If you want to eat a persimmon, you'll naturally pick the weaker one. I'll fight you sooner or later, but not now. Then, Su Fong pointed at Yi Feishu. You think I'm a weak persimmon? Yi Feishu's eyes were filled with hostility. Su Fong said in a firm tone, In my eyes, of course you're a weak persimmon. Hen Wuxiang, you're courting death. Yi Feishu was furious. His body flashed, and he pounced into the battle space. Before Xianzheng announced the start of the battle, Yi Feishu released his 6 avatars and charged at Su Fong. You're so easily angered and almost lost your mind. How can you be the Yi clan's Taoist? It seems like the Yi clan has no one else. Su Fong sneered. Then he separated his hands, and a dark, gray, poisonous blood gushed out from his palms. It turned into a poisonous mist and spread in all directions. Chi, chi, chi. The attacks of Yi Feishu's 6 avatars came into contact with the dark, gray, poisonous mist. They were quickly infiltrated by the poisonous mist. Then, they were corroded and quickly collapsed. After Gay devoured the mercury spirit, the poisonous blood became even more shocking. Not only was the poison 10 times stronger, but it also had the ability to permeate through everything like mercury. Yi Feishuan's attacks were shattered, and a lot of the poisonous blood was consumed. However, it still swept toward the 6 avatars. Chi. One of the avatars was touched by the poisonous mist, and it quickly infiltrated into his body. The avatar started to rot and fall off layer by layer. Yi Feishu was shocked and angry. He quickly retracted his avatars. Hen Wuxiang, you're the one who forced me to do this. I'll let you know what it means to be a Taoist of the 5 divine clans. Yi Feishu gritted his teeth and took out 2 xianbao. One was a black mirror with peach wood edges. The other was a black bao that was only 1 foot long and 3 black peach wood arrows. Soul reflecting mirror and peach soul arrows. Hen Wuxiang, I suggest that you admit defeat quickly. These 2 xianbao are the most powerful treasures of a Yi clan. Although the one that Yi Feishu took out is only a replica, and its power is not even 1/10 of the real one, it will not be difficult to kill you. Xianzheng saw the xianbao that Yi Feishu took out, and his expression changed slightly. He secretly transmitted his thoughts to Su Fang. The Dao Saints of the Elder Group on the east side of the spiritual altar were also shocked. Their eyes were filled with fear. Soul, reflecting mirror, peach soul, arrows. Su Fang scanned the mirror and the bao with his senses. Instantly, his soul trembled and he was extremely shocked. Originally, I was going to use these 2 supreme treasures to fight for first place. Hen Wuxiang, now that I'm going to use these 2 xianbao against you, you should feel honored. Yi Feishu revealed a domineering and cold smile. Then, he waved his hand and the black mirror flew out. It flew 1,000 feet in front of him and faced Su Fang with the mirror. An illusory aura was emitted from the mirror and instantly enveloped Su Fang. A reflection of Su Fang immediately appeared on the surface of the mirror. Su Fang did not feel anything strange. What was strange was that the Tao runes of the heavens' secret life, shrinking technique, and the true runes of the heavens' secret unravel were flashing crazily, indicating that a huge danger was about to befall him. Yi Feishu suddenly pulled back his black bao, and a peachwood arrow shot out. His target was not Su Fang, but the black mirror. The peachwood arrow shot into the mirror and pierced right into the heart of Su Fang's reflection. Su Fang felt as if his heart was shot by an arrow. A heart-wrenching pain that he had never felt before spread all over his body. It was so painful that he let out a miserable cry. His origin soul also trembled, causing Su Fang to almost lose consciousness. If it was not for the 7-colored Vajradao heart, not only would Su Fang's willpower be destroyed by this arrow, but his Dao heart and soul would also be shattered. After shooting this arrow, Yi Feishu's face became extremely pale and his aura was weak. It was obvious that this arrow consumed a lot of his energy. Seeing that Su Fang was not killed by this arrow, Yi Feishu was not surprised. He smiled viciously and said, "Let's see how many more arrows you can take." Then, Yi Feishu pulled back his bow again and pointed a peachwood arrow at the black mirror. Xianzheng raised his eyebrows and said, "Hen Wuxiang, admit defeat. You can't take the power of the peach soul arrow anymore." Admit defeat? A soft persimmon will always be a soft persimmon. Even the Supreme Xian Bao will not be able to save him. Chapter 3001. I didn't expect Yi Feishu to have such an amazing Xian Bao and even be able to use it. The central profound divine domain's 5 god clans are so powerful. It's not strange for Yi Feishu to have such an amazing Xian Bao. The soul reflecting mirror and peach soul arrow are the Yi clan's most important treasures. They're activated by the soul. Yi Feishu is only using a replica. He didn't hesitate to consume his soul, so it's normal for him to be able to activate these 2 Xian Bao. What a pity. Hen Wuxiang is a genius. He's definitely stronger than Yi Feishu, but he lost to Yi Feishu's amazing Xian Bao. Yi Feishu took out the soul-reflecting mirror and peach soul arrow, which immediately turned the situation around. Many cultivators were discussing it, and many of them felt pity for Su Fong. Shu Wanjin stared at the battle dimension, and her heart was in her throat. On the eastern altar, the Yi clan's Dao saint stroked his beard and smiled proudly. The wine sage snorted. Using the power of the Xian Bao to win? What kind of genius is that? The Yi clan's Dao saint replied proudly. The battle for the top 10 doesn't restrict the Xian Bao. Furthermore, the Xian Bao is also a part of one's strength. You have to admit defeat. On the western altar, Western Xian Tianqing and Long Tianxi looked at the battle dimension with joy and gloating. Especially Long Tianxi. He couldn't help but laugh. What a pity that I couldn't crush this maniac personally. Hu Ditian shook his head and smiled. In the blink of an eye, Yi Feishu shot another arrow at the head of Su Fong's projection in the black mirror. At the same time, Su Fong's Dao Palace suddenly surged with Dao runes from the life-shrinking technique. It condensed into a life-severing blade and cut off the destiny connection with the projection in the black mirror. The soul-reflecting mirror could replicate a cultivator's aura as long as it shone on them. Then, the peach soul arrow would directly attack the projection in the mirror, causing heavy damage to the projection's Dao heart and soul. It could even kill the projection's soul. This kind of attack was impossible to guard against. It was powerful and strange. However, Su Fong had used the life-severing blade to sever his connection with the figure in the soul-illuminating mirror. This meant that the figure had nothing to do with Su Fong anymore, directly resolving the crisis at the root. Chi! The peach soul arrow hit the head of the illusory figure in the mirror, and the illusory figure immediately collapsed. Hen Wuxiang, I don't believe you can withstand a second peach soul arrow. This is what you get for looking down on me. Ha ha! Yi Feishu laughed out loud. He was extremely pleased with himself. His laughter spread out of the battle space and reverberated throughout the space. Swish! Swish! The gazes of hundreds of millions of cultivators gathered on Yi Feishu. Most of the people looked at him as if they were looking at a fool. Puzzlement, astonishment, mockery, there were all kinds of expressions. Su Fong was still standing there perfectly fine, but Yi Feishu was smiling so happily. If he wasn't a fool, then what was he? Are you done laughing? If you are, then let's end this. Su Fong's cold voice echoed in the battle space. The black-gray light wheel formed by the deadly poison instantly appeared above Yi Feishu's head. Yi Feishu's laughter stopped abruptly. Then, he said in shock and astonishment, "How did you escape the power of the peach soul arrow?" Unbelievable. Yi Feishu found it hard to believe. However, Su Fong was standing there alive. He had no choice but to believe it. At this moment, Yi Feishu felt as if he had stripped naked in front of hundreds of millions of cultivators. He was just a clown. Yi Feishu. Next time, wait until you see the result clearly before you laugh. Su Fong sneered. Then, with a thought, the poison sky will roll down and trapped Yi Feishu within it. Sizzle, the deadly poison penetrated Yi Feishu's defense and started to corrode his body. Whoosh, a divine aura suddenly descended and swept Yi Feishu away. He directly landed on the west spiritual altar. It turned out that Xianzheng had suddenly saved Yi Feishu from the poison sky path. Then, Xianzheng nodded at Su Fong and said, "Hen Wuxiang wins." At this moment, hundreds of millions of cultivators finally let out cries of astonishment. Shu Wanjin heaved a sigh of relief and muttered to herself, "This brat just likes to be surprised. He almost scared me to death." On the east spiritual altar, the wine sage's hearty laughter sounded. On the other hand, the Yi clan's Dao Saint expert's face was filled with gloom. The wine sage's laughter was like a loud slap on his face. The other top 10 geniuses were also shocked and surprised. The smiles on Long Tianxi and Xishuan Tianqing's faces instantly froze. Hu Ditian said embarrassedly, "Luckily, I still have a chance to defeat Hen Wuxiang." Humph. To be able to get rid of the soul-reflecting mirror, you must have used your origin energy to cast a forbidden technique. Let's see how you're going to continue fighting. Su Fang's aura seemed to be weak as he slowly returned to his throne on the spiritual altar. Just now, he had used up some of his life energy to activate the life shrinking technique. However, it was still within his acceptable range. The soul-reflecting mirror was really strange. It absorbed Su Fang's aura and duplicated Su Fang's image. Coupled with the peach soul arrow, Su Fang had used up a large amount of his life energy. He hurriedly entered Fu Yao's cave and activated the heaven-piercing Blood King vine in his body. He then executed the Yang reversion technique to recover his life energy. For the second battle, Hu Ditian chose his opponent. This time, he chose Long Tianci. Long Tianci directly admitted defeat on the spiritual altar. He didn't have the courage to face Hu Ditian at all. Since Jing Hao won the third battle in the previous round, he was the one who chose his opponent for this round. The opponent he chose was Sima Xiao. This was an evenly matched battle. Sima Xiao possessed the extraordinary Black Lotus avatar and the formidable Xianbao. On the other hand, Jing Hao had just broken through during his battle with Yi Feishu. Even though his cultivation was still at the peak of Upper Daolord realm, his strength had increased greatly. Both of them executed their abilities and engaged in an intense battle. In the end, Sima Xiao relied on the powerful Black Lotus tribulation to suppress Jing Hao and force him to admit defeat. Sima Xiao finally obtained her first victory. For the fourth battle, Dongxian Daoyan challenged Xishuan Tianqing. No matter how conceited Xishuan Tianqing was, he was still weaker than Dongxian Daoyan, so he once again tasted the bitter taste of defeat. However, this battle had also exhausted a lot of Dongxian Daoyan's strength. The final battle of the third round was between Li Zhan and the demon race's Yuan Jin. This time, Yuan Jin didn't admit defeat. He fought Li Zhan with all his might. Not only did Yuan Jin possess the ape's cry that attacked the soul, but he also executed a powerful staff technique that seemed capable of shattering the world. Everyone finally witnessed the formidable strength, cunning, and brutality hidden under Yuan Jin's seemingly honest appearance. The intense battle between the two of them was the most intense battle since the beginning of the top 10 competition. Billions of cultivators watched on with trepidation. In the end, Yuan Jin relied on his abundant demonic power to win Li Zhan by a narrow margin. Just like Sima Xiao, he won his first victory. After 3 rounds, Su Fang, Dongxian Daoyan, and Hu Ditian still maintained their undefeated record. Among the other prodigies, only Long Tianci didn't win a single battle. This was the consequence of offending Su Fang. His Dao heart and confidence were shattered in the first battle. He was already unable to recover from this setback. However, Yi Feishu was even more unlucky. Not only was his avatar severely injured by the poison, but his physical body was also severely injured. Moreover, his soul and vitality were damaged when he used the soul illuminating mirror and peach soul arrow. It was already good enough that he wasn't at the bottom, let alone the top 3. After resting for 10 years, the fourth round of the top 10 competition began. The first battle was still Su Fang's choice of opponent. I wonder who Hen Wuxiang will challenge in this round. Hen Wuxiang obviously used a forbidden spell in his battle with Yi Feishu. It's impossible for him to recover in such a short time. No matter who he chooses, the result is hard to predict. Everyone was guessing Su Fang's choice. Su Fang flew into the battle space and looked at the west side of the altar. Li Zhan suddenly shouted, "Hen Wuxiang, I can't wait to compete with you. Why don't you choose me?" He was indeed a battle maniac. He couldn't wait to battle with Su Fang. There will be a battle sooner or later. Why are you in such a hurry? Su Fang smiled embarrassedly. He then pointed at Yuan Jin and said, You're bullying me again." Yuan Jin had a miserable look on his face as he reluctantly flew into the duel space. After sizing up Su Fang, Yuan Jin grinned and said, "Hen Wuxiang, you must be exhausted from the battle with Yi Feishu earlier. Looking at your dispirited look, it's hard for you to win against me. Why don't you just admit defeat?" "Admit defeat? Won't I lose face if I admit defeat to a big goblin?" Su Fang touched the tip of his pen and smiled embarrassedly. Yuan Jin chuckled and said, "You humans are all suffering because of your pride. Since that's the case, I won't be polite to you anymore." Su Fang nodded and said, "No need to be polite. If you have any powerful techniques, just show them all. Then you have to be careful. My staff technique is an inherited special ability of the ape tribe. It's called the Heavenly Pillar God Killing Staff Technique. It's extraordinarily powerful." Yuan Jin introduced his innate ability honestly. However, before he could finish, he suddenly opened his mouth and let out an earth-shattering cry of an ape. This big goblin looked honest, but it was actually very cunning. First, it attracted Su Fang's attention. Then, it unexpectedly used the ape's cry to attack Su Fang's Taoist heart and soul. Moreover, it was even more terrifying than the previous ape's cry. Roar! 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 The sound of the ape's cry reverberated in the battle space. It transformed into 9 huge shadows of ape heads and surrounded Su Fang from all directions. At the same time, they bared their teeth and let out an angry roar. Boom! 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 The terrifying ape's cry caused the barrier of the battle space to vibrate continuously. The sound passed through the barrier and spread in all directions, shaking the Taoist hearts of countless cultivators. An instinctive fear instantly enveloped their bodies and minds. Some of the weaker cultivators were so scared that their faces turned ashen. Many of them were so scared that they wet their pants on the spot. Su Fang's figure stood firm. He looked at Yuan Jin and said casually, "Are you done? Your voice is quite loud. Unfortunately, it's useless." Chapter 3002. My Tao heart is forged from Vajra. How can it be shaken by a few of your strange cries? Su Fang sneered disdainfully. From a mortal in the small world of the Pansong universe to his current height, he had experienced countless life and death situations and cultivated the 7-colored Vajra Tao heart. Although Yuan Jin's cry of the devil ape was powerful, how could it shake Su Fang's Tao heart so easily? You're quite extraordinary, human. Even I'm a little afraid of you. Try my Heavenly Pillar God Killing Rod. If you can block it, I can only admit defeat. Let me remind you, you broke the heavenly wheel of the Western Xian with 1 finger. Although your finger technique is powerful, my rod technique is more powerful. Yuan Jin grinned. Then let's see if my finger technique or your rod technique is more powerful. Su Fang smiled embarrassedly. This big goblin of the ape clan was quite interesting. Your finger is so thin. How can it compare to my rod? Yuan Jin snorted. When some female cultivators heard Yuan Jin's words, they couldn't help but think of something bad. Their faces turned red. Yuan Jin was indeed a little shameless. Eat my rod. A burst of thunderous sound came from Yuan Jin's body. His demonic aura surged and his body expanded wildly. In an instant, he transformed into a ferocious-looking giant ape of more than 200 feet. Then he stretched out his hand, and a rod shadow of 1,000 feet appeared and smashed towards Su Fang. The rod shadow grew rapidly like a heavenly pillar, carrying with it a terrifying divine power that could destroy everything. It was estimated that this staff could destroy a low-level universe. The entire battle space became chaotic. The space was like a stirred pool, turbulent currents surging and strong winds howling. Su Fang's eyes were solemn. He activated the black-yellow spell body and displayed the heavenly wheel of the formless heavenly wheel, forming a natural heavenly wheel. Boom, boom, boom. The natural heavenly wheel was like a part of nature. It was indestructible and endless. However, under the bombardment of the rod shadow, it instantly collapsed. However, the rod shadow was also blocked for a moment. Whoosh, another heavenly wheel was released, instantly trapping the staff shadow. It was the yin-yang heavenly wheel condensed by Su Fang's heavenly way dharma body. As the heavenly wheel spun, the heavenly pillar-like staff shadow was firmly trapped. Its power was constantly being whittled away, and it quickly became nothing. Hen Wuxiang, you are too despicable. Why don't you use your finger? Yuan Jin shouted in dissatisfaction. As soon as his voice fell, Yuan Jin took a step forward. His huge body nimbly leaped out at an incredible speed pressing down on Su Fong like a mountain. "Eat my demonic ape fist." Su Fong felt a terrifying pressure bearing down on him. This pressure also contained a violent and evil blood chi and monster chi. This punch was enough to destroy a profound world. Su Fong didn't retreat. Instead, he advanced, activating the fiery steps to propel his body forward like lightning. The blood demon Dharma body immediately merged with his physical body. His physical body's divine power and the power of the blood demon Dharma body were emptied by his unreserved punch. Boom! The battle space shook violently. The impact of the collision caused ripples to appear in the space, and the ripples quickly spread to the surroundings. If it wasn't for the fact that the battle space was created by a Dao Saint expert, this collision was enough to cause the space to collapse. Su Fong's body was blasted 100 miles away. He opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. The muscles all over his body cracked, and the blood armor that had merged with his physical body was also full of cracks. Yuan Jin was blasted a dozen miles away, and his body was also covered in blood. Just as he was about to speak, Yuan Jin suddenly opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood with a strong, murderous aura. It landed more than 1,000 feet away and shot out in all directions like sword chi. He seemed to have the upper hand, but in fact he was attacked by Su Fong's murderous aura. His monster body was severely injured, and his soul was also trembling. Yuan Jin shouted angrily, "You human, you are too immoral. You were not injured at all just now, but you pretended to be injured. You purposely pretended to be weak to trick me. You are too immoral." Hundreds of millions of cultivators were stunned, and then they burst into laughter. A big goblin actually talked about morality and immorality. It was really funny. At the same time, the people were also shocked by Su Fong's strength. Tuo Qianji and other cultivators from Dongxian were also suspicious of Su Fong's crimson avatar amidst their shock. Tuo Qianji was the most surprised. His divine light kept sweeping Su Fong's body, but the aura he sensed was very unfamiliar. Naturally, he was puzzled. Su Fong smiled domineeringly. "Yuan Jin, let's fight again." "No, my staff can't beat yours, and my fist is not as strong as yours." "I admit defeat." Yuan Jin admitted defeat without hesitation. He then transformed into his human form and ran out of the battle space without looking back. Just like that, Su Fong obtained his fourth victory. Returning to the altar on the west side, Su Fong immediately took out medicinal pills and secretly urged the heaven-piercing Blood King vines to devour the vitality to heal his physical injuries. Dongxian Daoyan transmitted his divine sense. "Hen Wuxiang, have you been to the Blood Valley of the Eastern Xian Divine Domain?" Su Fong replied without batting an eyelid. "Yes, I have." Dongxian Daoyan said, "You should be famous in Dongxian for being able to cultivate your crimson avatar to the level of a 5-star lord of bloody slaughter. Why have I never heard of your name before?" Su Fong said faintly, "Don't you already know my name?" Dongxian Daoyan studied Su Fong in confusion, but did not ask anything else. The fourth round of battles lasted for 3 days. Hu Diqian and Dongxian Daoyan won another round, winning all 4 matches like Su Fong. It was estimated that the top 3 of Jiuquan's gods, chosen ones, were these 3. Li Zhan won 3 matches in total, while Sichuan Tianqing, Jing Hao, and Sima Xiaoxiao won 2 out of 4 matches. They belonged to the second tier. Long Tianzi, Yi Feixiu, and Yuan Jin belonged to the third tier. Long Tianzi was the worst, having not won a single match so far. However, there were at least 5 more matches for each of them. It was too early to make a conclusion now. After the 4th round, the top 10 geniuses had a certain understanding of each other's abilities and began to be cautious. As a result, the 5th round of battles seemed rather mundane. In the first match, Su Fong challenged Jing Hao. Jing Hao obviously wanted to preserve his abilities and fight to be in the top 6, so he forfeited the match right away. Hu Diqian and Dongxian Daoyan challenged the same opponents as Jing Hao. It was obvious that they had no hope of being in the top 3, so they chose to forfeit just like Jing Hao. The other geniuses were cautious as well, preserving their abilities as much as possible. They forfeited when they felt that it was difficult to win. The only match that stood out in the fifth round was probably the battle between Yi Feishu and Long Tianxi. One of them was Daozu's direct disciple of Hongtian divine realm and possessed unparalleled providence, while the other was the Yi clan's Daozi. Before the battle of the top 10 began, they both thought that they had a place in the top 3. In the end, they met Su Fong. One of them had his Daoist heart shattered and was unable to recover from the setback, while the other was severely injured. They could be said to be brothers in distress. Forget about being in the top 3, it was already their biggest goal to not be at the bottom. Therefore, the battle between Long Tianxi and Yi Feishu could be said to be a fierce battle between a dragon and a tiger. In the end, Long Tianxi suppressed Yi Feishu with the help of the Violet Fey Dragon. Although Yi Feishu was helpless, he had no choice but to forfeit in humiliation. Long Tianxi could finally hold his head up high for once, regaining some of his confidence. The sixth round of battles began. It was still Su Fong, who had won the first match in the previous round, who chose his opponent. This was also the advantage that Su Fong had obtained from the deduction of the Eye of Future during the first round of drawing lots. Otherwise, no matter how heaven-defying his abilities were, it would have been difficult for him to obtain a perfect victory if he had encountered powerful opponents like Hu Ditian and Dongxian Daoyin in the first few rounds. Sima Xiao, come up. Su Fong pointed at Sima Xiao. Su Fong was filled with anticipation as he battled with Sima Xiao once again. In the last battle of the Eastern Xian Divine Domain, Su Fong was suppressed by Sima Xiao and had to use the art of mediating destiny to force a draw with her. Things had changed with the passage of time. Naturally, Su Fong was looking forward to meeting her again in the finals. Sima Xiao sent a telepathic message to Su Fong. Hen Wuxiang, do you want to consider what I've told you before? If you choose to join Southern Xian, I'll let you win this match. Let me win this match? Su Fong could not help but laugh and replied indifferently. Even if you don't let me win, do you think I can't beat you? If you defeat me, it will be a Pyrrhic victory. How are you going to fight against experts like Dongxian Daoyin and Hu Ditian after this? Sima Xiao's voice was filled with arrogance. If you agree, I can consider the matter of us becoming Dao companions. Sorry, I'm not interested in joining the Southern Xian Divine Domain, and I'm not interested in you either. It looks like we can only fight. Sima Xiao let out a cold laugh and released 3,000 thoughts, which transformed into bowl-sized black lotuses that gathered together to form a huge black lotus shape. Black Lotus Calamity Fire? Su Fong had tasted the Black Lotus Calamity Fire before, so he did not dare to be careless. He released the Yin-Yang Heavenly Wheel, the Nature Heavenly Wheel, and the Nine Suns Heavenly Wheel to form layers of defense above his head. Boom, boom, boom. It was as if a terrifying calamity of destruction had descended, enveloping the surroundings and plunging Su Fong into a shocking world of calamity fire. Then, the burning black lotuses charged towards Su Fong and collided with the 3 light wheels above Su Fong's head. The black lotus calamity fire was endless, while Su Fong's shapeless heavenly wheel was indestructible. The collision of the two produced huge explosions that shook the entire battle space. Sima Xiao, when you were in the Eastern Xian Divine Domain, you completely suppressed me. Although your strength has increased a lot now, my strength has increased even more, and I'm already above you. Su Fong easily took on Sima Xiao's powerful attack, and strong confidence rose in his heart. The collision lasted for half an hour before the Black Lotus Calamity Fire finally exhausted its power, and Su Fong's 3 heavenly wheels also turned into nothingness. Su Fong looked at Sima Xiao with a domineering smile. You still have a powerful will visualization technique and a powerful fire elemental Xian Bao. Why don't you take them out? Chapter 3003. Weak girl. Su Fong smiled awkwardly. If Sima Xiao was a weak girl, then there weren't many strong female cultivators in the entire Jiuquan celestial realm. Sima Xiao is no longer a threat. There's still Li Zhan, Dongxian Daoyin, and Hu Ditian. It won't be difficult for me to defeat Li Jian. As long as I win another match, I can enter the top 3 and Master will have to fulfill his promise to me. Seeing that he was about to enter the top 3, it meant that Shi Xian Daozu had promised to help Xuanxin and Goddess Luo find a strong master. Su Fong was overjoyed. As for the benefits of being in the top 3 of Jiu Xuan's heaven selection, Su Fong didn't care about them. His goal of participating in the finals of Jiu Xuan's heaven selection wasn't for the fame and fortune. If Xian Zheng and the divine saints of the Elder Council knew that I was Su Fong, I wonder what kind of expression they would have then. Su Fong's lips curled into a cold smile as he returned to the west side of the altar. Hen Wuxiang will definitely enter the top 3 after winning all 6 matches. He was just a nobody before. After the heaven selection of Jiu Xuan, who wouldn't know of Hen Wuxiang's name? Hen Wuxiang will rise like a blazing sun. I wonder who among Hen Wuxiang, Dongxian Daoyan, and Hu Diqian will be the ultimate genius standing at the top of the world. Countless cultivators looked at Su Fong with envy and awe in their eyes. At the same time, they were also looking forward to the battle between Hu Diqian, Dongxian Daoyan, and Su Fong. The 6th round of battles seemed dull and boring. Hu Diqian challenged Yi Feishu this time. Hu Diqian stood with his hands behind his back. He looked at Yi Feishu, who was dispirited, as if he was looking at an ant. He said indifferently, "Yi Feishu, I didn't expect you to be defeated by trash like Long Tianci. I really feel sorry for you." Feeling Hu Diqian's gaze and the words that pierced his heart like a sharp sword, Yi Feishu's heart was filled with anger and inferiority. In the past, he was on par with Hu Diqian. Although Hu Diqian was arrogant, he was also very polite to him. Now that he had fallen to the point where he was looked down upon by Hu Diqian, one could imagine the feeling in Yi Feishu's heart. Not even comparable to trash. Hu Diqian's cold voice completely crushed Yi Feishu's confidence. Hu Diqian then said indifferently, "Yi Feishu, you are no longer qualified to fight with me. Admit defeat." Hu Diqian wins this battle. Without waiting for Yi Feishu to admit defeat, Xian Zheng spoke up and sent Yi Feishu out of the battle space. Once Yi Feishu appeared on the west side of the altar, the intense humiliation caused him to spit out a mouthful of blood, dyeing his green robe red. Reality was cruel. Without ability, no one would look up to you. The elders, relatives, and friends who used to be kind to you had all turned ferocious in an instant. Hatred Wuxiang. Yi Feishu looked at Su Fong, his eyes burning with hatred and anger. Dongxian Daoyan flew into the battle space. Just as everyone was guessing who he would choose, his gaze fell on Long Tianci. "You trash." Su Fong suddenly chuckled. The title of trash is very appropriate. Hatred Wuxiang. Long Tianci gritted his teeth. Flying into the battle space, he looked at Dongxian Daoyan and shouted through gritted teeth, "Dongxian Daoyan, how dare you call me trash? Although my ability is not as good as yours, I will not allow you to humiliate me so wantonly. Even if I lose, I will injure you." "Injure me? Are you worthy?" Dongxian Daoyan snorted coldly. Long Tianci asked through gritted teeth, "Dongxian Daoyan, I have no grudge with you. Why do you keep humiliating me?" Dongxian Daoyan shouted coldly, "You chased after Dongxuan's genius, Su Fong. If it weren't for the rules, I would have killed you." Su Fong had a place in the top 10. The real geniuses were bullied, but a trash like you could enter the top 10 of Jiu Xuan's gods, chosen ones. To be on par with you is a disgrace to me. Kneel down for me. A surge of will exploded, turning into a shocking illusion of heavens will around Long Tianci. The terrifying pressure of the will caused Long Tianci's newly built will and confidence to crumble instantly. He trembled and his legs turned to jelly. He had no choice but to kneel before Dongxian Daoyan. Enough! A faintly discernible, yet supremely majestic roar came from the void. The illusion of will that enveloped Long Tianci was shattered instantly, while Dongxian Daoyan spat out blood from the shock of the force of will. Then, Long Tianci was swept out of the battle space by the force of the void. Obviously, the peerless expert of Hongtian Divine Region had struck out in anger when he saw Long Tianci being humiliated. However, he had obviously restrained himself, or else Dongxin Daoyan would not have just been lightly injured. The next two battles passed by peacefully. Li Zhan and Yuan Jin defeated their opponents respectively and won another victory. After the sixth round, the situation was clear. Su Feng, Dongxin Daoyan, and Hu Ditian had won all 6 battles, each with 3 battles left. They were certain to enter the top 3. The 3 geniuses were now the center of attention. After 10 years of rest, the battle of the top 10 entered the 7th round. Li Zhan didn't want to fight me? Come. Su Feng had no other choice now. Between Li Zhan, Dongxin Daoyan, and Hu Ditian, he would naturally choose the weaker Li Zhan. Finally, I'm going to fight you. Li Zhan stood up from his throne, exuding a strong fighting spirit. Suddenly, the will of the Li clan's Dao Saint spoke in Li Zhan's mind. Li Zhan, you must give it your all in this battle. You must injure Hen Wuxiang severely at all costs. Li Zhan replied in confusion. Why? That Hen Wuxiang is unfathomable, and we absolutely can't allow him to have the chance to defeat Hu Ditian. Therefore, the clan has decided that you will not hesitate to burn your thoughts and soul in order to activate that secret treasure. Even if you can't kill him, you must injure him severely. Activate the Heaven's Vanquishing Spike? Grand Elder, you should know that once I activate the Heaven's Vanquishing Spike, my magical power will be depleted and my life and soul will be weakened. I won't be able to fight anymore. Besides, if I activate the Heaven's Vanquishing Spike, even Hu Ditian will be severely injured or even killed, let alone Hen Wuxiang. When that happens, will the Jiushuan's higher authorities spare me? This is the clan's decision. You can't go against it. As for the Jiushuan's higher authorities, the clan will try to pardon you. What benefits did the Hu people give my clan to make us sacrifice me to help Hu Ditian win first place? Li Zhan's fighting spirit dissipated as his gaze turned cold. Although he was the Li clan's Daoist, he was still treated as a pawn. This made Li Zhan's heart turn cold. This is not something you can worry about. Just do as I say. Li Zhan flew into the battle space. Hen Wuxiang, I want to fight you. I hope you can use your strongest move. Li Zhan looked at Su Feng, his smile burning with fighting spirit. I hope you have the ability to make me use all my moves. Su Feng snorted. Suddenly, Li Zhan changed to an essence spirit voice transmission. Su Feng, be careful. Once I activate the Heaven's Vanquishing Spike, I won't be able to control it. You better admit defeat immediately. If not, you won't be able to keep your life. That's all I have to say. It's up to you whether you believe me or not. Su Feng was stunned. What did Li Zhan mean? Li Zhan's right hand grabbed at Su Feng. Instantly, the space around Su Feng became cold and hard. His entire body was about to turn into metal. Then, Li Zhan's right hand's 5 fingers shot out gold, silver, red, white, and black Xianguang. It turned into a 5-colored claw and grabbed at Su Feng's head. Boom! A natural wheel appeared in front of Su Feng and shattered the claw. At this moment, Li Zhan's eyes turned blood red. His entire aura became cold and sinister. A shocking, murderous, and violent aura surged out from his body. Then, a blood-red light shot out from his Dao Palace. It turned into a 3-foot-long spike above his head. Instantly, the entire battle space was filled with murderous and violent aura. Xian Zheng's expression changed slightly. Heaven's Vanquishing Spike. The many Dao Saints in the Eastern Spell Altar also changed their expressions. They looked at the blood-red spike above Li Zhan's head. Their eyes were filled with fear. Li Zhan actually fused with the Heaven's Vanquishing Spike. I heard that the powerhouses of the 5 major god tribes had once joined forces to kill a powerhouse from a foreign tribe called Zhu Tian. The Li tribe obtained 13 spikes from Zhu Tian's head and refined them into a supreme dark treasure called the Zhu Tian Spike. I didn't expect Li Zhan, the path chosen, to actually fuse with one. The Heaven's Vanquishing Spike is extremely powerful. A powerful cultivator from the Li tribe once used this Xian Guang to kill a Dao Saint. The Heaven's Vanquishing Spike is a vicious weapon. Once it is activated, its power is shocking and it has the ability to defy the heavens. However, at the same time, the Heaven's Vanquishing Spike will devour the owner's soul. This is why the Li tribe rarely uses it. In order to win against Hen Wuxiang, Li Zhan actually used the Heaven's Vanquishing Spike. Is he crazy? Many Tao saints from the elder group were discussing fervently. They were all filled with fear towards the heavens' vanquishing spike. In the battle space, Xian Jing's Dharma body raised his eyebrows. Just as he was about to remind Su Fong, a primordial spirit thought from the Hu people's Hupa suddenly said, Lord Xianzheng, the Hu people are determined to become the heavens' chosen one of Jiuquan this time. I hope that you can fulfill their wish. Take it that the Hu people and the Li tribe owe you a favor. Xianzheng was stunned for a moment. Then he fell silent. Su Fong felt the heavens' vanquishing spike's aura, and his heart also palpitated. When he heard the voice from the Eastern Spell Altar, he understood how powerful the heavens' vanquishing spike was. Hen Wuxiang, admit defeat. Once I activate the heavens' vanquishing spike, not only will I not be able to control its power, but I will also lose my primordial spirit consciousness. When that happens, your life will be in danger. Li Zhan's thunderous voice rang out in Su Fong's mind. Xian Bao made from the spike of the heavens, vanquishing spike. I wonder which one is more powerful, compared to the heart of the Slayer? Chapter 3004. Su Fong had encountered countless dangers in his life. In the future, there would be countless obstacles waiting for him on the path of cultivation. If he retreated every time he encountered danger, how could Su Fong have achieved what he had today? How could he reach the peak in the future? Cultivators should face difficulties head-on, kill gods, and cut through all obstacles. Hence, even if he lost this battle, Su Fong would not admit defeat without a fight. Hen Wuxiang, I admire you very much, but I have to say that you are very stupid at the same time. Since you are not willing to admit defeat, then fight me with all your might. It's a pity that I cannot fight you with my true abilities. Li Zhan sighed. In the next moment, he released his thoughts into the heaven-destroying spike floating above his head. In an instant, the heaven-destroying spike was activated, releasing a murderous aura and a ferocious aura that enveloped the entire area. The interior of the battle space turned into a world of killing. The murderous aura soared into the sky, and the sky changed color. Vaguely, shouts of killing could be heard one after another. Some indistinct phantoms, exuding strong, killing intent, flashed and disappeared in the world. Although there was a strong boundary outside the battle space, it was difficult to completely isolate the murderous aura released by the heaven-destroying spike from penetrating outside the boundary. The cultivators who were closer to the battle space all trembled in fear. Their Tao hearts and souls were trembling, as if they were facing a terrifying god of death that would kill everything. Those cultivators who were further away from the battle space were also trembling, and their faces turned pale. Su Fong's divine light changed instantly. His entire body felt as if he had fallen into a cold world of death. His Tao heart was trembling slightly. He quickly gathered his thoughts and activated the formless heavenly wheels. In an instant, he formed a defensive light wheel in front of him. Chi, a ray of blood light, was released from the heaven-destroying spike and condensed into a spike. It was originally only a foot long and was very illusory. In an instant, it traversed through space and transformed into a ferocious blood spike that was more than 1,000 feet long. It charged towards Su Fong. This blood spike's shadow revealed a murderous aura that would not stop until it killed Su Fong. It was unstoppable and unstoppable. Chi, the outermost yin-yang heavenly wheel of Su Fong, was only able to block the blood spike for 3 breaths of time before it was torn apart and collapsed. The second light wheel was a formation created by Su Fong using his immortal soul spell body. He used the mantra of the formless heavenly wheel to form the heavenly wheel formation. The vast formation was connected to each other and operated continuously. Its defensive capabilities were incomparably strong. However, under the attacks of the blood spike phantoms, it was only able to resist for about 10 breaths of time before a crack appeared. The light wheel began to shatter, and the vast formation began to collapse. However, after being blocked one after another, the blood spike phantom shrank a lot and became a little more illusory. However, the residual power of the bloody thorn phantom was still astonishing. It tore apart the 9 suns heavenly wheel, the nature heavenly wheel, and the massacre heavenly wheel one after another. Then it was completely exhausted and dissipated in front of Su Fong. Su Fong's face turned pale, and his aura became weak. Casting the formless heavenly wheel had depleted Su Fongda's mana, willpower, and energy. At the same time, the blood spike contained a frightening, killing intent. It was unstoppable and unstoppable, and attacked Su Fang's Dao heart and Dao palace. If not for Su Fang's 7 colors Vajra Dao heart and Jiuxuan Dao palace, this blood spike phantom would have severely injured him. He might even lose his Dao heart, and his consciousness would be wiped out by the killing intent. The heaven-destroying spike is indeed powerful. It is indeed the supreme Xian Bao that can kill a Dao saint. Su Fang was greatly shocked. The 5 divine tribes of the Middle Xian continent were indeed frightening. They actually possessed such a frightening treasure. At the same time, Su Fang also developed a good impression of Li Zhan. Cultivation was not about scheming. Cultivators should kill decisively, be open and above board, and use their own abilities to flatten everything. They could not be considered true cultivators if they relied on their identities and schemes. Li Zhan obviously had his reasons for using the heaven-destroying spike in this battle. He could secretly warn Su Fang, and this showed that he was not the same type of person as Yi Feishu and Long Tianci. Li Zhan transmitted his immortal soul again. Hen Wuxiang, I only used a small part of the heaven-destroying spike's power just now. You should know how powerful this treasure is. Its sharpness is not something a Dao Lord cultivator can block. Hurry up and admit defeat while I still have a trace of consciousness. Continue, fight. Su Fang shouted coldly, full of battle intent. It's a pity that I can't have a fair battle with you. Next, I will use all my strength to activate the heaven-destroying spike. You'll have to pray for yourself. Li Zhan sighed, and the trace of clarity in his eyes was completely drowned by the crazed killing intent and ferocity. Then, he waved his hand and grabbed the heaven-destroying spike in his hand. His entire body fused with the heaven-destroying spike, and he became a peerless weapon. Then, he burned his immortal soul, and together with the heaven-destroying spike, he suddenly unleashed a majestic killing aura. A terrifying divine power that could kill everything in the world enveloped the entire battle space. Su Fang felt that his entire body was about to be pierced and torn apart. He was shocked and did not hesitate to activate the Blood Fury spell body to fuse with his physical body. At the same time, he activated the Jiuxuan Wuji Sutra. The heart of the powerful cultivator, Slayer, started to beat. His physical body and Dao Palace started to vibrate along with Slayer's heart. He immediately entered a very special state, as if he had fused with the heavenly Dao. What kind of abijna is that? It can actually cause the heavenly Dao to resonate? In the battle space, Xian Zheng's spell body felt something and looked at Su Fang in shock. The 30-odd Dao saints on the eastern altar also stretched their necks and stared at Su Fang. Tuo Qinji's heart was in turmoil. That is Slayer's heart. Slayer's heart was stolen by the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine. How did it end up in Hen Wuxiang's hands? Who is Hen Wuxiang? Not only is he a 5-star divine lord of bloody slaughter, but he can also use Slayer's heart to resonate with the heavenly Dao. Li Zhan was like a god of death. His body flashed and instantly shattered the void. He suddenly appeared in front of Su Fang. The heaven-destroying spike in his hand was only a few inches away from Su Fang's forehead. The sharp killing aura penetrated the defense of Su Fang's Dao Palace and was about to destroy his Dao Palace. Dong! It was as if the heavenly Dao's heart was beating. It was also as if the heavenly Dao's drums were beating. The sharp killing aura that shot out from the heaven-destroying spike was shattered by the sound of the heavenly Dao. Li Zhan only needed to stab forward slightly to pierce through Su Fang's head. However, under the vibration of the sound of the heavenly Dao, not only was the heaven-destroying spike unable to move forward an inch, but he was also forced back by dozens of feet. The thick killing aura on his body was also shattered layer by layer. Kill! Li Zhan let out a murderous roar. He activated the heaven-destroying spike again and attacked like a flash of lightning. Boom! Su Fang took a step forward. His body contained a mysterious rhythm that coincided with the rhythm of the heavenly Dao. Then he punched out and hit the heaven-destroying spike. That Hen Wuxiang is crazy. He actually used his physical body to clash with the heaven-destroying spike? What kind of divine power did he use? How could he force Li Zhan back? Crazy. Li Zhan activated the heaven-destroying spike and entered a state of madness. That Hen Wuxiang is also a lunatic. The billions of cultivators all exclaimed and were shocked. The 8 geniuses on the west side of the spiritual altar all stood up and stared at Su Fang and Li Zhan. Dong! Su Fang's body once again emitted the sound of the heavenly Tao. A boundless sound of the heavenly Tao erupted from his fist and collided with the heaven-destroying spike. Boom! Li Zhan was forced back again. This time, he retreated 100 miles away. His physical body was shattered by the sound of the heavenly Tao. His skin cracked open and his flesh was mangled. The blood that flowed out was quickly devoured by the heaven-destroying spike, causing it to shine with a dazzling red light. Its murderous aura became even more shocking. Su Fang was also forced back dozens of miles. Cracks appeared on his physical body. Even the Hen Wuxiang mask on his face had horrifying wounds. Fresh blood flowed out. Some of the wounds on his body were caused by the heaven-destroying spike's murderous aura. Some were caused by the sound of the heavenly Tao. After all, he hadn't completely fused with Slaughter's heart. Activating Slaughter's heart and triggering the sound of the heavenly Tao put a huge burden on his physical body. Fortunately, his perfected physical body was extremely strong. The heaven-piercing Blood King vine had fused with his physical body and permeated into every corner of his body like meridians, causing his physical body to become even stronger. If he was an ordinary Tao Lord, his physical body would have been crushed into meat paste by the sound of the heavenly Tao. Boom! 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 Li Zhan activated the heaven-destroying spike again and again, tearing through the void and attacking Su Fang. Su Fang activated Slaughter's heart and released the sound of the heavenly Tao, clashing with Li Zhan again and again. The battle space was constantly being shattered. The murderous aura and the spatial vibrations caused by the collision caused the entire battle space to fall into chaos. If Xianzheng hadn't used his divine aura to stabilize the battle space from time to time, it would have completely collapsed by now. This is too shocking. This isn't a battle between 2 Tao Lords. It's clearly 2 peerless powerhouses. What kind of abijna is Hen Wuxiang using? He can actually fight against the Li clan's heaven-destroying spike and not be at a disadvantage at all? Even if it's a battle for first place, it's nothing more than this. Looks like both of them are going to suffer. Even if one of them wins, it will be a Pyrrhic victory. The cultivators outside the battle space were shocked to the core, and their hearts were in turmoil. On the west side of the altar, Hu Ditian stared fixedly at Su Fang. There was no longer any trace of arrogance on his face. His eyes were filled with shock. Dongxin Daoyan, Sima Xiao Xiao, and the others only realized now that Su Fang's ability was far beyond their imagination. Not only did he have the ability to be in the top 3, he also had the shocking ability to challenge first place. Hen Wuxiang's ability is actually so strong. It looks like there's no hope for revenge. Long Tianzi and Yi Feishu felt a wave of lingering fear amidst their shock. However, they felt more despair. Xishuan Tianqing stared at Su Fang. Other than surprise and shock, there was also a strong jealousy that couldn't be concealed. Boom! After another collision in the battle space, Su Fang and Li Zhan separated abruptly. Li Zhan had completely lost his consciousness and had sunk into madness. He was completely controlled by the heaven-destroying spike's murderous aura. Kill! He burned his thoughts and vitality again, preparing to activate the heaven-destroying spike with all his might. Su Fang's brows raised. Chapter 3005. Suddenly, in the battle space, Xianzheng's Dharmakaya shouted, "Everyone stop!" Xianzheng's battle avatar released a wave of power that shackled Li Zhan's body and Tao Palace. This made it difficult for Li Zhan to activate the heaven-destroying spike or even gather his thoughts. Xianzheng then looked at Su Fang and said, "This battle is considered a draw. What do you think?" A draw? Su Fang was stunned. He did not expect Xianzheng to make such a judgment. Su Fang looked at Li Zhan and nodded. "Since you have made such a judgment, how can I not follow?" Now, both he and Li Zhan were injured. If they continued to fight, neither of them would have a good ending. Li Zhan's consciousness might be controlled by the heaven-destroying spike's ferocious aura. Su Fang had no choice but to use his most powerful trump card. Once his primordial aura was used, it would be difficult to recover in a short period of time. Furthermore, Su Fong did not really want to kill Li Zhan. Xianzheng's sudden stop was exactly what Su Fong wanted. The Li clan's Dao Saint said unhappily, "Lord Xianzheng, the outcome of this battle has not been decided yet. How can you end it so hastily? Hen Wuxiang and Li Zhan are both exceptional talents of the human race. How can I watch them both be injured? No matter who dies in the end, it is not what I want. I think you don't want Li Zhan to be injured or die, right?" Xianzheng said. The supreme power of a half-step Daozu was fully displayed at this moment. What kind of person was Xianzheng? He naturally had his reasons for suddenly stopping the battle between Su Fong and Li Zhan. Hen Wuxiang had the Dark Mother Daozu behind him, while Li Zhan had the Li clan and the Five God clans behind him. If Xianzheng wanted to become the leader of the human race, it was not enough to rely on his abilities and background. He needed the support of the Daozu and many other powers. He didn't want to offend either side. Letting Su Fong and Hen Wuxiang end the match in a draw was the best outcome. Xianzheng's words made the Li race Dao Saint speechless. He also looked at how badly injured Su Fong was and knew that he had lost the chance to fight for first with Hu Ditian. He had achieved his goal, so he didn't say anything more. At this moment, Li Zhan quickly regained consciousness and cupped his fists towards Xianzheng. "Thank you, sir." Then, he looked at Su Fong, nodded and said, "Hen Wuxiang, you are very strong. You are beyond my imagination. Although this match is a draw, you have actually won. If there is a chance in the future, I will definitely fight you with my true strength. When the time comes, don't decline." "That's exactly what I was thinking." Su Fong agreed without hesitation. The two of them flew out of the battle space at the same time. Both of them were severely injured. The injuries on their bodies were shocking, and their auras were dispirited. What a pity. Hen Wuxiang had the ability to fight for first place, but he and Li Zhan were both injured. He has completely lost the chance to fight for first place. Can't you see? The reason why Li Zhan took out the Xian Bao, the sky-vanquishing thorn, and injured Hen Wuxiang, was actually to clear the obstacle for Hu Ditian to fight for first place. Dongxian Daoyan is definitely not Hu Ditian's opponent. It looks like the top genius of Jiuxuan's heavens chosen this time will be Hu Ditian. Jiuxuan's heavens chosen has become a vanity fair for the five divine races to fight for power and profit. The other geniuses are just side characters. Billions of cultivators were discussing, but they didn't dare to make a sound. They were communicating with their primordial spirits. Not many of them were fools. It was not difficult to see the Li clan and Hu people's conspiracy. They felt sorry for Su Fong, but at the same time, they were indignant. Su Fong had just sat down on the west side of the altar when Hu Ditian's domineering voice came. "Hen Wuxiang, I didn't expect you and Li Zhan to be injured. It looks like I won't have the chance to crush you personally. What a pity." Yi Feishu's mocking voice came from the side as well. "Hen Wuxiang, no matter how strong you are defeated by the five divine races geniuses in the end. If it weren't for Lord Xianzheng's intentional protection, you would have been dead on the spot." Long Tianxi also let out a voice full of satisfaction. "You were beaten like a dog by the five divine races geniuses and almost lost your life. How dare you mock me for being useless?" Su Fong smiled awkwardly and ignored the three of them. He released a strand of his consciousness and turned into a shadow while he entered the Fuyao cave. Carefully sensing his physical body, Dao Palace, and Dao Heart, he could not help but raise his eyebrows. This time, he was severely injured. After fusing with Slayer's heart and releasing the heavenly voice, his physical body was severely injured. His Dao Heart and Dao Palace were also shaken. The heaven-destroying spike was indeed powerful. When the shockwaves from the collision hit Su Fong, his physical body, Dao Heart, and Dao Palace were also severely injured. All in all, Su Fong's entire body, from the inside out, was unscathed. The five divine races' resources are indeed shocking. Looking at the injuries on his body, Su Fong had a new understanding of the overall strength of the five divine races. At the same time, his hatred towards the five divine races of Middle Xian became even more intense. Hu Ditian, don't even think about getting first place in Jiuxuan this time. Su Fong's deep eyes flashed with ruthlessness and determination. The purpose of this Jiuxuan's god selection was to deal with the invasion of the other tribes and to select the future pillar of the human race, who might even become the leader of the human race. If Hu Detian were to win first place in this Jiuquan's god selection, the Hu people and the 5 divine races would undoubtedly be like tigers that had grown wings. The 5 divine races would definitely use this opportunity to infiltrate other divine regions and forces. With the domineering nature of the 5 divine races of Middle Xian, Su Fang would not be able to stand out even if he had the support of Shi Xian's Daozu. Sooner or later, he would die in the hands of the 5 divine races. Therefore, Su Fang would stop Hu Detian at all costs. Dongxian Daoyan's ability was extraordinary, but it was difficult for him to defeat Hu Detian. Su Fang could only count on himself to recover quickly and fight Hu Detian in the end. Everyone thinks that I'm heavily injured and can't fight anymore. Who knows that I can recover so quickly in such a short time? Su Fang had the heaven-piercing Blood King Rot Tan and mastered the art of yang reversal. In addition, his injury this time did not consume his lifespan like before, so his recovery speed was naturally astonishing. Su Fang took out medicinal pills and spiritual items, and at the same time, let the heaven-piercing Blood King Rot Tan devour the vitality of the Chrysalis tribe's cultivators' corpses. At the same time, he cast the art of yang reversal in the chronoformation to seep pure mystical yang qi into his physical body and accelerate the recovery of his vitality. Sizzle, sizzle. The heaven-piercing Blood King Rot Tan's blood seeped into the corpses of the Chrysalis tribe's cultivators and Heartbreakers' body, gathering into their bodies like streams and turning into rivers that surged within their bodies. The mystical yang Dharma body also merged its mystical yang qi with its physical body, the flame of vitality burning within Su Fang's body. The external and internal injuries on his physical body healed at an astonishing speed under the flame of vitality. The remaining heaven-piercing Blood King Rot Tan's sharp aura in his body was also forcefully refined. Just as Su Fang was recovering with all his might, Dongxian Daoyan and Hu Detian were engaged in an earth-shattering battle. Su Fang, Dongxian Daoyan, and Hu Detian had never met in the top 10 battle. Once this round was over, the two of them would have to fight each other. Therefore, Dongxian Daoyan and Hu Detian had to fight each other in this round. Otherwise, there would be a Lian Zhan in the next 2 rounds. Everyone thought that this was the battle of Jiuquan's number 1 that had been prematurely staged. Dongxian Daoyan, the number 1 in Jiuquan belongs to me. You're like a mantis trying to stop a chariot when you try to stop me. You'll be crushed into pieces. Hu Detian's aura was like the wrath of heaven and earth. Even the boundary of the dual space could not stop him. The cultivators within 1,000 feet radius of the dual space felt as if their hearts were about to jump out of their throats. Billions of cultivators looked at Hu Detian, their eyes filled with respect, shock, and fear towards the strong. You'll have to get past me if you want to be the number 1 in Jiuquan. Dongxian Daoyan stood tall, his indifferent tone laced with a murderous aura. Dongxian Daoyan, you're indeed extraordinary. However, you're only a stumbling block to me. I'll kick you away and use you as my stepping stone to reach the highest peak. Hu Detian's domineering voice was still echoing in the air as a shocking dominating will erupted and enveloped the area. Hu Detian had visualized his will into a world, and he was the only dominator between heaven and earth. Illusory wills appeared in the world and bowed to him like subjects worshipping their emperor. Your dominating Dao can't overwhelm me. Dongxian Daoyan sneered and released 3,000 wills that turned into 3,000 worlds and collided with Hu Detian's dominating will. The two geniuses no longer hid anything and used their most powerful techniques. Rumble. Worlds crumbled one after another as earth-shattering scenes played out. When they saw this, even those Dao saints were shocked. Whether it's Dongxian Daoyan or Hu Detian, their future is limitless. They'll be Dao saints at the very least. If they're nurtured with all their might, they might even become the supreme Daozu. Daozu? The human Daozu of the 9 divine realms. The purpose of holding the Jiuquan's chosen of heaven this time isn't just to nurture a Daozu. It's to select a peerless genius who might surpass the Daozu. Surpass the Daozu? The strongest of the humans is the Daozu, but the Daozu is already standing at the pinnacle of Dao. How can he nurture such a person? The humans don't have someone who can surpass the Daozu, but the other races do. This is also the reason why we've been repeatedly invaded by the other races. That's a legendary existence. It's too far away. Even with the entire human race's strength, we can't find such a peerless genius and nurture him into one of those legendary existences. The Tao Saints conversed secretly, discussing the secrets of a human race that ordinary cultivators would never know. The billions of cultivators held their breaths as they stared at Dongxin Daoyin and Hu Ditian, their eyes filled with shock. The two geniuses' battle lasted for 3 days. It was obvious that both of them had given it their all. Dongxin Daoyin is indeed the peerless genius most likely to inherit the supreme Daozu's position in the Eastern Divine Realm. He's qualified for me to use my strongest technique. Chapter 3006. Hu Ditian threw out the yellow Xinguang with a wave of his hand. It hovered above Dongxin Daoyin's head, revealing a Xian Bao that looked like an imperial seal. The imperial seal was only half a foot square, releasing a bright yellow Xinguang. It exuded an aura of supremacy and contained a cold, murderous aura. The aura it exuded made one feel like they were facing the supreme Tao of heaven, as if the supreme authority of the Tao of heaven was concentrated on this imperial seal. Once the Xian Bao was revealed, the billions of cultivators were shocked. A sense of reverence rose from the bottom of their hearts. Some cultivators below the level of Taoist Lord could not help but want to bow to the imperial seal. The Jiuquan Dao Saint powerhouses on the east side of the altar looked solemn as well. There were also people who exclaimed in shock, "The imperial seal of destiny?" The Hu people actually gave such a Xian Bao to Hu Ditian. I heard that the imperial seal of destiny was a piece of unpolished jade that Hu people experts found in the depths of chaos. It was a supreme Xian Bao that was refined with the blood and souls of millions of emperors, as well as the will of countless realm lords and experts who cultivated the Tao of Dominion. It could even suppress a Tao Saint when fully unleashed. With Hu Ditian's ability, he can at most unleash a tenth of the imperial seal's power. It's enough to defeat Dongxin Daoyin. There's no doubt about the battle of Jiuquan's top genius now. The Tao Saint powerhouses conversed in secret. They were all shocked and thought that Dongxin Daoyin would lose without a doubt. Hu Ditian looked at Dongxin Daoyin and shouted domineeringly, "Dongxin Daoyin, I have the imperial seal of destiny. There's no way you can defeat me. Admit defeat quickly. The imperial seal of destiny. I didn't expect the Hu people to give this treasure to you. It's obvious that the Hu people are determined to be the top genius of Jiuquan. I know that I'm no match for you, but I'll give it my all." Dongxin Daoyin knew how powerful the imperial seal was, but he still refused to recognize it. He took out a Xian Bao. It was a rusty bronze cauldron that gave off an ancient and weathered aura. Judging from its aura, although it was not as majestic as the imperial seal, it was still extraordinary. Great Yin Divine Furnace? Hu Ditian was taken aback for a moment before he sneered disdainfully. This seat has long heard of the fame of the Eastern Profound Heavenly Pavilion's Great Yin Divine Furnace. It uses the chaos of heaven and earth as a furnace and the evolution of the heavenly Tao as fire to refine all things. It is also a powerful Xian Bao of the Jiuquan Divine Domain, but compared to this seat's imperial seal, it is still a little lacking. As soon as he finished speaking, Hu Ditian's forehead split open and an aura poured out and entered the heavenly fate imperial seal. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The imperial jade seal trembled and quickly expanded to a size of 1,000 feet. The 4 blood-red divine characters on it could be seen clearly. Worship the heavens and suppress the Tao. Under the orders of the heavenly Tao, they suppressed the heavens and the earth. They were dignified and domineering, and they stood above everything. Boom! The dazzling yellow Xian Guang enveloped the entire combat space. The blood-red divine characters shone from the heavenly fate imperial seal and pressed toward Dongxin Daoyin with a terrifying divine power that could seal everything. Dongxin Daoyin activated the divine nullification cauldron as well. A vast, ancient aura filled the cauldron and enveloped the surroundings. Then, a power that could refine everything in the world attempted to refine the imperial seal. Boom! 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 2 powerful forces collided. One wanted to suppress everything, while the other wanted to refine everything. The result of the collision was naturally shocking. It felt like the heavens and the earth were shattering. Even Xianjing's avatar had to defend himself to avoid being affected. At the same time, he had to stabilize the combat space. After a dozen breaths, the two Xian Bao were in a stalemate. Hu Detian opened his mouth and blew a gust of air into the Heavenly Fate Imperial Seal. The Heavenly Fate Imperial Seal's power sword, shattering the great Yin Divine Furnace's divine power layer by layer. Finally, it crumbled and the furnace turned into a Xian Guang that burrowed into Dong Xian Daoyan's body. Dong Xian Daoyan was also affected by the aftershock. He was severely injured and spat out blood. Cracks appeared on his Dao heart as well. Hu Detian, you've won. Dong Xian Daoyan cried out bitterly. Xian Zheng grabbed Dong Xian Daoyan out of the combat space with a wave of his hand and sent him back to the altar on the west side. Then he announced loudly, Hu Detian wins. Once the announcement was made, hundreds of millions of cultivators cried out in shock and surprise. It was like spring thunder that swept through the entire space. In everyone's opinion, Hu Detian's victory over Dong Xian Daoyan meant that he was the first in Jiuquan's chosen one. How shocking and honored was it to be able to personally witness the birth of the number one genius in the 9 profound divine domain. How could they not be extremely excited? At this moment, Hu Detian seemed to be shrouded in a dazzling halo that shone brightly, earning the respect of everyone. Under countless gazes filled with respect, envy, and even admiration, and hearing the cheers, Hu Detian felt like he was floating. The domineering aura of having the world under his control rose spontaneously. Being the first in Jiuquan is my first step. The 4 tribes are about to invade the human race. Chaos is imminent. It's time for our race to rise. I, Hu Detian, will step onto the highest peak of the human race. I will lead my race, the entire human race, and become the supreme ruler and leader of the human race. Hu Detian took a deep breath and suppressed the excitement in him. He regained his calm and dominating aura and slowly flew to the west side of the altar under everyone's watchful eyes. Congratulations, Dao, Child Di Tian, Yi Feishu, Long Tianci, and the rest went up to congratulate Hu Detian. Sichuan Tianqing hid the jealousy in his eyes and went up to congratulate him as well. On the east side of the altar, many Dao saints also congratulated the Hu people's Dao saint, Hu Pe. Being praised by everyone, Hu Pe laughed proudly. His laughter reverberated in the air for a long time. Wine Saint, Tua Qianji, and the other Dao saints turned pale when they heard Hu Pe's laughter. His laughter was extremely ear-piercing. At this moment, the first place of Jiuquan's heavens chosen was already set in stone. The following battles between the geniuses were much less intense. Many cultivators were still immersed in the battle between Hu Detian and Dong Xian Daoyan, while the other Dao saints were secretly communicating. Some shady deals were quickly made in secret. Su Fong was still inside Fu Yao's cave, recovering as fast as he could. The 7th round of the top 10 competition soon came to an end. After 10 years of rest, the geniuses and billions of cultivators focused their attention on the other rankings. The 8th round of the top 10 competition begins. Hen Wuxiang, come up and choose your opponent. Xian Zheng looked at the west side of the altar and said to Su Fong. Su Fong came out of Fu Yao's cave. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Countless gazes fell on Su Fong. Su Fong looked like he had recovered from his injuries, but his breath was extremely weak. His face was pale, and he looked like he would collapse at any moment. Some people sneered disdainfully, while others were disappointed. Su Fong, give up on the next 2 matches. Shu Wanjin secretly transmitted her thoughts to Su Fong. Su Fong replied without batting an eyelid, Senior sister, I have my own plans. Flying into the battle space, Su Fong looked at Dong Xian Daoyan and said, Dong Xian Daoyan, I challenge you. No one was surprised by Su Fong's choice. He only had 2 opponents left, Hu Detian and Dong Xian Daoyan. In his current state, the result would be the same no matter who he chose. There should be a fierce battle between Hen Wuxiang and Dong Xian Daoyan for the 2nd place. Hen Wuxiang should admit defeat immediately. He has 6 wins and 1 draw now, while Dong Xian Daoyan has 6 wins and 1 loss. However, Dong Xian Daoyan still has to face a weak opponent, while Hen Wuxiang has to face Hu Detian. No matter who wins or loses, Hen Wuxiang can only be third. The crowd discussed among themselves, thinking that Su Fong had no choice but to admit defeat. At least he could save his face. Dongxin Daoyan entered the battle space. Su Fong suddenly spoke to him telepathically. Dongxin Daoyan, admit defeat for this match. I admit defeat? Dongxin Daoyan looked at Su Fong in shock. If you don't want Hu Detian to be first, admit defeat immediately. I still have hope of taking the first place from Hu Detian. If you insist on fighting me, I will still take this match, but then I won't have much confidence in defeating Hu Detian. You've recovered in such a short time. Dongxin Daoyan was shocked. After the 8th round, I have another 10 years of rest. Using the mobile residence, I can at least recover to 80% of my condition. Although I don't have full confidence in defeating Hu Detian, I have the ability to fight him. Why should I believe you? Besides, even if you defeat Hu Detian, what good will it do me? Suddenly, a majestic voice rang in Dongxin Daoyan's head. Daoyan, I admit defeat for this match. Master. Dongxin Daoyan was shocked, but he said immediately, Yes, Master. I admit defeat for this match. Dongxin Daoyan looked at Su Fong, his eyes filled with confusion before he nodded and said, Gasp! Everyone was not surprised at all. Waves of astonished exclamations rose and fell one after another. Even Xinzheng looked at Dongxin Daoyan in shock, and then at Su Fong, looking thoughtful. Strange, why did Dongxin Daoyan admit defeat? It doesn't make sense. Could it be that Hen Wuxiang is planning to have a final battle with Hu Detian? If Hen Wuxiang defeats Hu Detian in the end, he can take the first place, but can Hen Wuxiang defeat Hu Detian? Even if Hen Wuxiang is in his peak condition, he can't possibly fight for the first place with Hu Detian. What's more, he's severely injured now. He's no threat to Hu Detian. No matter what, the battle for the first place of Jiuxuan's chosen hasn't been settled yet. Anything is possible. Everyone was discussing, confused by Dongxin Daoyan's actions. Even if Su Fong defeated Dongxin Daoyan, it would be difficult for him to compete with Hu Detian. It was meaningless. It was no wonder people were so surprised. However, there were also some people who had a glimmer of hope, hoping that Su Fong could create a miracle in the final match. Su Fong returned to the altar on the west side. Hu Detian's sharp gaze swept over him before he spoke in a domineering tone. You have a chance to take the first place from me in the final match. I hope you won't admit defeat then. I won't disappoint you. Anything is possible, isn't it? Chapter 3007. 10 years passed in the blink of an eye. The 9th round of the 9 Profound Heaven Selection Grand Finals was also the final round. It had finally arrived under everyone's anticipation. Su Fong was still the first to fight. He flew into the battle space, attracting the attention of hundreds of millions of cultivators. Sensing that Su Fong's aura was still as weak as before, many people were greatly disappointed. How much can he recover in a mere 10 years, even if he has a mobile abode? Hen Wuxiang didn't admit defeat immediately. He's overestimating himself. Hu Detian is firmly in first place. There's no doubt about it. Not just the hundreds of millions of cultivators, but even the Dao Saint powerhouses on the eastern altar thought the same. Hu Detian, come up. Su Fong looked at Hu Detian on the western altar and said indifferently. Su Fong had no other choice in this battle. His only opponent was Hu Detian. Hen Wuxiang, I hope you won't admit defeat immediately. Hu Detian let out a long laugh and slowly descended from the west side of the spell altar into the battle space. Hu Detian will definitely win this battle. The number 1 genius of Jiuxuan will definitely be Hu Detian. Countless cultivators cheered and looked at Hu Detian with awe and shock. It was a stark contrast to the coldness of Su Fong's appearance. Hu Detian was like an emperor standing 1,000 miles away from Su Fong with his hands behind his back. He looked at Su Fong from afar and said in a lofty voice, Hen Wuxiang, I only need 10 breaths to crush you under my feet. His domineering voice echoed in the battle space, causing another round of applause. 10 breaths? Hu Detian thinks too highly of Hen Wuxiang. Why would he need 10 breaths to crush him? Long Tianci looked at Su Fong, his eyes filled with delight. Yi Feishu was also filled with joy. I hope that it won't end too early. Let Hu Detian teach him a lesson, and let Hen Wuxiang know that the peerless geniuses of the 5 great divine clans are not to be trifled with. Dongxian Huidao said coldly, "You two trash only dare to talk behind your backs. When Hen Wuxiang stepped on your heads, why didn't you even dare to fart? Again? Together? Mouth? Bieningya, Qin, Jiaoliu, Boxworm, Chong, Yifeishu, and Long Tianxi were speechless, not daring to say another word. Dongxian Daoyan ignored the two of them and looked at Su Fang. His eyes were filled with doubt and a glimmer of hope. Hearing Hu Detian's words, Su Fang smirked disdainfully. When I step on your head, you'll know how ignorant and laughable your current arrogance will be. It's hard to find a genius who can step on my head in the human world. I'm that pinnacle figure. Who do you think you are, Hen Wuxiang? How dare you speak so arrogantly? Prison of the Emperor's heart. Suppress. Hu Detian bellowed in a domineering manner and performed the Tao of Dominators will visualization. In an instant, a dark cage condensed from the power of will appeared above Su Fang's head and fell on Su Fang. The cage was eerie. There was no energy or divine aura, but it exuded an aura of conspiracy and trickery. It wanted to sink Su Fang's heart into endless schemes and intrigue, causing Su Fang to tremble in fear. An emperor in the mortal world could control his subjects and become the ruler of his people. The most important method was the emperor's mind trick. He could manipulate his subjects and people in the palm of his hand to ensure that his throne was as stable as a rock. The cage formed by Hu Detian's will visualization technique had an extremely similar ability to the emperor's heart arts of the mortal world. Once one fell into the cage, it would cause the enemy's heart to sink into an illusion formed from countless schemes and schemes, shackling their Tao heart. Using schemes and scheming to kill was much more powerful than strength. This was the terrifying aspect of Hu Detian's will visualization art, the Imperial Heart Prison. Any trickery and trickery will turn into ashes under absolute power. Crimson Prison, Soul, Slaying Saber. Su Fang dared not be careless. When the cage descended, a powerful killing intent erupted with a single thought. A crimson light that could only be seen by the nascent spirit swept out. A man in a crimson robe rose from it and slashed upwards with the crimson saber in his hand. Swoosh! The crimson light that exuded a terrifying killing intent swept out like a long river. It shattered the shackles of the Emperor's dungeon and landed on the cage, shattering it into pieces. I don't care what trickery you're using. I'll break it with a single slash of my saber. Su Fang's crimson blood avatar had merged with the heart of the foreign tribe expert, Slayer. Although it was still at the height of a 5-star divine lord of bloody slaughter and had yet to completely merge with Slayer's heart, it allowed Su Fang's killing intent to soar by tenfold. His saber slashed apart Hu Detian's will attack. The crimson saber light's power did not diminish as it slashed towards Hu Detian. What a powerful willpower visualization technique. Hu Detian raised his eyebrows. His divine light changed slightly as a supreme sovereign's will erupted and shattered the crimson saber light. Why does Hen Wuxiang's will visualization technique feel so familiar? Sima Xiao, Dongxian Hui Huang, and the other cultivators from the Eastern Xian divine realm were all shocked. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. They were not shocked by how powerful Su Fang's bloody hell soul-slaying saber was. Instead, they thought of Su Fang from this attack. Tuo Qianji and the other 3 Dao saints who were hosting the finals of the Blood Valley were all shocked. Bloody hell soul-slaying saber. Is Hen Wuxiang really Su Fang? Tuo Qianji was even more puzzled and suspicious of Su Fang's true identity. Su Fang looked at Hu Detian and said mockingly, "You suppress me in 10 breaths? It seems that 10 breaths have passed. Hu Detian, are you slapping your own face?" Hu Detian smiled casually. "It looks like your recovery is better than I thought. However, if you think that you have the right to be arrogant in front of me, it's really laughable. Letting you stay in this battle space is just to make you suffer a heavier blow." As soon as he finished speaking, 1,000 thoughts were released and quickly turned into an imperial jade seal that was 1,000 feet large. However, it was not an imperial jade seal, but an abhijna created by thoughts. Its divine power was not as powerful as the imperial jade seal, but it was still shocking. Its vast will and dermic powers instantly enveloped the surroundings and dominated Su Fong and everything in the surrounding space. It wanted to force Su Fong to kneel down and submit. Su Fong released 3 shapeless heavenly wheels, which clashed with Hu Detian's divine power and caused earth-shattering explosions. The shapeless heavenly wheels and the imperial jade seal were all shattered and disappeared. Hen Wuxiang, you are not injured? Hu Detian was finally shocked, and his eyes flashed with disbelief. Whoosh, billions of cultivators were exclaiming. Hen Wuxiang was obviously severely injured in the battle with Li Zhan. How could he have recovered so quickly? Was he not injured at all before, or did he use more than 20 years to recover to his peak condition? No matter which one it is, it shows how extraordinary Hen Wuxiang is. No wonder Dong Xiandao Yin admitted defeat directly. He wanted Hen Wuxiang to preserve his abilities and fight with Hu Detian for first place. It's still hard to say who will be first. There's going to be a good show to watch now. Many of the cultivators had originally thought that the first place would be Hu Detian. They did not expect that things would not develop as they had imagined. While they were surprised and shocked, they were all energized and focused their attention on the battle space. The Dao Saints and the other top 10 geniuses were also surprised. Some of them even had a feeling that it would not be easy for Hu Detian to win first place. Xianzheng stared at Su Fong, and his deep eyes shone with a sharp light. He wanted to see through Su Fong. However, Su Fong seemed to be shrouded in a layer of fog and was difficult to see through. Not only had the masked Hen Wuxiang changed Su Fong's aura, Xian Daozu had also secretly covered everything for Su Fong. Naturally, Xianzheng could not see anything. Hen Wuxiang, you've really surprised me. However, this does not change anything. You can't take away the first place that belongs to me. Everything you've done is just to prove my rise. Hu Detian quickly returned to normal. He was still as domineering as ever. Suppress. Hu Detian released his thoughts once more, and it condensed into a tall phantom that wore a yellow robe and a crown on its head, and it charged towards Su Fong with the bearing of a sovereign that looked down upon the world. 9 Suns, Celestial Wheel. Nature, Celestial Wheel. Massacre, Celestial Wheel. Su Fong used the formless Celestial Wheel and condensed light wheels that rolled towards the Emperor's shadow. Boom, boom, boom. The Emperor's shadow carried an unstoppable aura as it charged forward forcefully and domineeringly. It struck out with a domineering and ferocious fist technique. A series of earth-shaking collisions sounded as if the heavens and earth were falling apart. The 3 light wheels were shattered by the Emperor's shadow. In the chaotic airflow, the Emperor's shadow stepped out and grabbed at Su Fong. Su Fong felt as if the entire space was about to be torn apart. My master's 10 directions seal. Su Fong did not hide anything at this time. He released 9 thoughts and directly used the My Master's 10 directions seal. The supreme power that ruled all directions, the past, and the future enveloped the Emperor's shadow and Hu Detian in an instant. It turned into a world that was under the absolute control of Su Fong. The Emperor's shadow trembled under the power of the My Master's 10 directions seal and was unable to control itself. What kind of abijna is this? Hu Detian's eyebrows rose as he activated his thoughts. The Emperor's shadow started to burn and exploded with an even more shocking aura as it attempted to shatter the shackles around it. Break! Su Fong shouted domineeringly. The power of the My Master's 10 directions seal completely exploded and crushed the Emperor's shadow. Hu Detian's thoughts were also shattered. That is the supreme abijna that Su Fong obtained in the Shirua Valley, the My Master's 10 directions seal. Su Fong. Hatred Wuxiang is Su Fong? Impossible. How can Su Fong be Hatred Wuxiang? The cultivators who had seen Su Fong use the My Master's 10 directions seal cried out in shock.